and welcome to the Actual Tech Media MegaCast. My name is Jess, and I am excited to be here with you all today. But before we jump into our content, I have some basic information to cover with you. Let's kick off our day here today by taking a quick tour of your audience console. And we're going to start with the questions window. Now, if you haven't already said hi, there is a whole audience of cool humans out there, so reach out and give a wave to the other members of the Actual Tech Media community. Also, keep in mind that if you have any tech issues today, a browser refresh is going to fix just about anything. But if those tech gremlins are clinging on, no problem. Just throw a comment in the question section and our crew will be there to help. We also want this to be an informative webinar for you. So throughout today's MegaCast, we hope you'll get engaged and ask all of your burning questions. Not only will we have team members responding to you over live chat, we will also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of our presentations. And if we do not get to your question during the webinar, don't worry, because the awesome experts that we have here with us today will be following up with you after we wrap. All right, next up on our tour, there are going to be lots of cool aha moments in the MegaCast today, and if you want to share those with your community, we've made it nice and easy for you. You can use the Twitter button right there in your audience console, and the hashtag for today's MegaCast will automatically get added to your post. And our last stop on this guided tour, be sure to check out the Handouts tab for some resources and takeaways from our speakers here today. We have an info pack collection of solution briefs, white papers, data sheets, free trials, ebooks, upcoming webinars, and more. So many great resources, so be sure to go explore. And if that wasn't enough fun, we also have some exciting prizes we will be giving away throughout the MegaCast today. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about those later on, but a few quick reminders for you all. You do need to be in attendance here live at the webinar in order to qualify to win a prize, and we will follow up with all winners after we wrap the MegaCast today. Now, all winners must submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. Now, hey, if you're not sure what those are, no problem. You can find the full T's and C's in that Handouts tab. Again, just click into the Handouts section, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll find the full T's and C's waiting for you there. Now, the absolute most important thing to remember here today is that we love getting all your insightful questions during these live webinars. In fact, we love it so much that we have a special additional prize for all you inquisitive folks out there. In today's MegaCast, we will be giving away a prize for the best question asked in each of our sessions. Now, the expert speakers and teams will review all the questions asked after the webinar, which means that even if your question does not get read out in a live session, there is still a chance to win. If you are a lucky winner here today and would like to donate the value of your prize, we have several wonderful organizations that we partner with. So let us know when we follow up about winning, and we will get that rolling for you. Again, we are so happy to have you all here with us live at the MegaCast today, and we want to keep that good feeling going. So let's connect on social. Reach out and connect with Actual Tech Media on Twitter and LinkedIn. We have lots of great content, and we always want to hear from you. Now, if you're looking for more awesome content right away after we wrap, you want to jump right in, make sure that you subscribe to the Actual Tech Media channel on YouTube. Another fun way to win a prize and to grow this awesome community is to refer an industry friend or coworker to the Actual Tech Media webinar series. Now, you're going to find a link to do that right there in that Handouts tab, and you will also be automatically redirected after we wrap today. Now, both you and your coworker, your friend, could win a prize, and we actually hold those drawings every month. So be sure you refer somebody awesome before you head out today. It could quite literally be a win-win situation. Next, we have a cool opportunity for the decision makers out there to get connected with new and emerging tech and innovative vendors. Here's how it works. All you need to do is click on the link in your Handouts tab and fill out the application. Then the Actual Tech crew will match you with some vendors that we think you should be chatting with based on your needs. There will also be fun opportunities that you can choose to join in, like surveys or test running new solutions, extended demos, and so on. You'll get some chances to win extra prizes, you'll chat with great people, and you will learn about the hottest new trends in tech. So be sure to apply, or hey, send that link to a decision maker in your team. Now, I want to take a quick minute here to remind you about one of my favorite resources, and that is ransomware.org. You can find everything you need to know about ransomware, how to prepare, how to prevent and recover. The site is jam-packed with information, helpful tips, checklists, strategic approaches, case studies, everything you need in one place. So wherever you are in your ransomware preparedness journey, there is something for you at ransomware.org. So go check it out and start exploring. All right, I have one more exciting resource I have to tell you about today, and that is the Gorilla Guide Book Club. It's going to give you access to free enterprise IT books authored by top industry experts, so you can stay up to date on trending enterprise technology. And yes, these books are going to work on your Kindle, your mobile device, and they are completely free, super easy. You can download these awesome resources at gorilla.guide, and there's a link for you in the handouts tab as well. Okay, well, we've covered a lot of important things already, and I don't know about you all, but I am excited to dive in. So let's get rolling.
All right, my friends. Well, hi, hello. I hope you are ready for today because we are talking all about cloud, tools, products, and services critical to cloud success, which is such a cool place to spend a day, right? Way up in the clouds. So whether you are private, public, hybrid, hyper, hey, even super, there is something cool to explore, some fun new cloud discovery ahead of you today. And to help us walk through this awesome day of adventures in the cloud, we have an absolutely all-star crew of presenters here with us from industry leaders like Gigamon, Rubrik, Tierpoint, Nasuni, Red Hat, Cohesity, and Tenable. Now, these top experts are going to walk us through everything that you need to know, everything that you should have top of mind when you're planning your cloud strategies as we head out of 2023 and start looking ahead into 2024. And this is such a cool topic. We've got tons of amazing sessions lined up. I hope you are all comfortable, settled back, slippers on, coffee in hand, whatever you do to get ready for a webinar. But let's get this day rolling. All right, so once again, my name is Jess Steinbach. I'm a moderator here at Actual Tech Media, and my fellow moderators, Scott Becker and Keith Ward, will be here with us today on live chat. So keep those questions coming in. I see all the highs and hellos. Ben's wondering where I get all my energy. You know, it's a combination of coffee and all of you, Ben. So the more you guys hang out and chat with me, the more energy I get. So keep that coming. All right, so today on the MegaCast, you could win one of 5 Apple iPad Pros. How cool is that? Plus, we have a $300 Amazon gift card that we will be giving away every 30 minutes. That's right, every 30 minutes we'll be giving away a $300 Amazon gift card. Now, I also, if you recall, mentioned that there's a $50 Amazon gift card going to the best question asked in each one of our sessions. So lots and lots of prizes ahead of you. If you have questions about the terms and conditions, other than the fact that you do need to be here live and present at the MegaCast, you can find the full T's and C's waiting for you in that handouts tab. So head on back over to the handouts tab. Robert is wondering, what is the site for the books again? That's Gorilla Guide. That's Gorilla Guide. That's what you're looking for. Robert, it is linked in the handouts tab, which brings us right back around to that handouts tab. So nice segue for us there, Robert. All right, so I am going to take us over to some questions for all of you, because that is how we are going to start our day today, is with a little bit of a chit chat. We want to hang out. We want to get to know you a little bit better. So we're going to ask you a few questions. I think there's 3 questions that I have for you. 2 of them are going to be the multi-select questions that you see up on your screen here. You can select more than one. I am going to show you the results. Don't worry, nobody's names are attached to the results, but I'll show you what you guys are all saying so we can kind of explore together where everyone's at. The reason I'm sort of teasing out that the last question is not multi-select is because I want you to get ready with your answers, because I really do want to hear from you today. I'm going to ask you to type them into the chat box. And what I'm going to ask you about, and I'm going to tease it out, is going to be basically around the opportunities that you're excited about, that you've seen or that you want to see with cloud. So start brainstorming those, because I'm going to ask you to type those in just a second. But let's start with kind of where you're going. So when you think about that overall direction, when you think about where cloud is going in your organization, are you thinking that you really need to consolidate? Are you wanting to expand? Are you wanting to optimize? Or are you wanting to just sort of maintain? You want to maybe tweak and enhance. So that's the question. Now let's see what all of you said. Let's look at the results here. All right, so we're seeing most of you kind of looking to working to maintain. You'd like to kind of keep going with what you're going to maybe tweak, maybe enhance. And the next second up to that is optimize. So that kind of goes hand in hand, right? You're looking to kind of take what you have and make it slightly better, or make it just as functional as it possibly can, or not fall behind, right? Because things move so quickly. That's some of what we're trying to do here, is just not get left behind. All right, so I'm curious if anyone sees any results as we go through this that surprise you. Let me know. Chime that in the chat window. Jonathan's on an airplane. Hey, Jonathan. Hope you're having good weather up there. All right, let's go to our next poll question here. So, what has been the biggest roadblock to moving your organization to the cloud? Now, you can choose more than one. I hope you have not had more than one giant roadblock, but if you have, you can multi-select. What have been the roadblocks? What is stopping your organization from moving forward with cloud, or moving more into the cloud, or doing some of the cloud enhancements that you've had in mind? And so, cost obviously is on people's minds. Organizational reluctance. Do you find that you're constantly having to convince people? Is that kind of an ongoing struggle? Team and training, you just don't have the human resource power, or people don't want to learn new tools. Legacy infrastructure, it's just too complicated or too bulky. Security, just general concerns about security, not being sure you have the right things in place. Data sovereignty or compliance. Are you worried about being able, as specific industries obviously have a lot of compliance. Performance, concerns about performance. If there's different things that you don't see on the list here, go ahead and put them in the chat. We want to hear from you. So let us know. I'm seeing a shortage of IT support. Apparently, SEMA's trying to get people to move over to North Carolina. Venkat says no roadblocks. Love that. Okay, way to go. Let me show you the results here and let's see. I'm curious what you guys think, if that lines up with what you would have expected. So the absolute number one and biggest concern roadblock that I'm seeing is cost. And then after that, a little bit of legacy infrastructure and security being a concern, and sort of bringing up the rear. The very least concern is performance. So great, people seem to be aware of the fact that there's not as much of a cost to performance. I am seeing SEMA, Adam would like you to send information about jobs. So we're doing some hiring today in the MegaCast, just starting out with a casual job board. Too many pressures. That's an interesting one. That's a really interesting write-in. Curious about that one. All right, well, that is an interesting look. And now I would like, if you're okay with it, I'd love for a few of you to write in, or as many of you as feel ready to, write a small essay. One word answer is fine, honestly. I'd like to see what is the most exciting opportunity that you have enabled or that you're excited to enable, something that you see on the horizon. If you haven't quite been able to get there yet, what is coming? What are you looking forward to? I just want to have some sort of good news stories, because I think a lot of times we spend so much time dealing with the stressors with these things, right? We're reactive. We're looking to respond to threat actors. We're looking to protect and prevent, and we're all hunkered down in our castles or our layered onions, or whatever metaphor you like. Now, let's talk about what's exciting with cloud. Let's talk about what makes us, what we've seen go well and what we think is going to go well in the future, what we want to see coming. And I am loving these answers. I am seeing a lot of automation. I'm seeing a lot of AI, better backup. Yeah, this is awesome, guys. Oh, I love all this. Okay, I'm trying to keep up with your questions coming in, but you guys are faster than I am. Josh is helping me get these out as well. We've got the whole team. Look at all this. So much AI. Build up on demand. Oh, that's a cool one. Lots of backups. Networking with third-party vendors. Robust connectivity. Optimize resources. Oh, this is so cool, guys. I hope you all spend, I know these are scrolling by very quickly. I hope that you go back and spend a little time scrolling through this list, because I'll tell you the chat window, I know it scrolls out past pretty quickly. So go back through this list and see what some of these answers are before you head out today, because this is a really neat and exciting, wow, lots of AI. Microsoft Fabric, figured out how to clone Dolly, but for some reason they can't make my brain an AI. That's a good one. Big data analytics, video surveillance with facial LPR recognition, more automation and connectivity, agility. Yeah, lots of agility. I'm seeing lots of automation, lots of speed, lots of AI. This is really cool. All right. I wish we could just sit here and read all these answers for the next little bit. because I would love to do that. But we are going to have to start out the MegaCast. Now, the good news is all of this exciting stuff that you folks are either already seeing or are looking forward to seeing. These are the types of things that we're going to talk about today. This is what we're getting into, and taking the time to explore so that we can enable some of these awesome and exciting opportunities, being able to support a workforce anywhere all the time. Yeah, I love that. We've been talking a lot about supporting remote workforces lately. That is a really neat one. Copilot and AI integration. Okay, amazing. Team, hey, so first of all, you guys are all clearly alive, awake, alert, and enthusiastic, as I always say, and I am stoked about the rest of this MegaCast. We have everybody here and participating. Like I said, we're going to try to catch up and make sure all of those answers get pushed out. So please do spend some time with reading through that list, because that's pretty cool to see what everyone is looking forward to in the cloud. Our last question for all of you is just our usual question about time frame. We just want to know, what is your time frame for taking action on some of the things you're going to be hearing about in the cloud today? So there's a lot of tools, a lot of solutions, a lot of things coming your way, and we want to know, what are you thinking this is urgent? Do you need to take action on this immediately? Do you have a little bit of time? Are you thinking a little bit more long-term strategic solutions that are a little bit further out? So whatever it is for your time frame, no wrong answers. Again, I'm not going to show anyone's responses here. This just helps us get an idea for whether or not we're hitting you with the information that you need when you need it, making sure that we're getting you the info that's going to be helpful for you. So take a second now and click on that poll. And I'll just tell you, I'm seeing the vast majority are actually looking about 6 to 12 months. Which is interesting, because usually I feel like I get a little bit more not certain, not sure when folks are answering this question. But I think that checks out for where we're all at, right? We're all approaching the end of 2023, looking ahead to 2024, which means that we are looking for that next year out, the strategies that are going to get us through to 2024. And then we'll all be sitting here together at the end of 2024 talking about how it went and this next round of cool iterations and things we get to think about. So kind of fits with where we're at for the time frame. All right, my friends. Well, that has been an awesome start to the day. As I said, I get a lot of my energy from all of you, and I am feeling pumped up and ready for this day. And luckily, we are definitely starting out on a high note. I am so excited to introduce you all to our very first expert presenter today. And as you can see from the screen, we are in for a treat, a returning favorite here on the MegaCast, and that is Martin Crew, Senior Director of Solutions and Partner Technologies at Gigamon. Martin, thank you so much for being here with us today to kick off the MegaCast. Now, I know you've got some great content lined up for us as always, and we're going to dive into some Q&A at the end. So I'm going to hand things right on over to you. Take it away, Martin.
Hey, thanks, Jess. That was great. And everybody, welcome. Always happy to be here to present to you on these webinars. So today, what we're going to focus on is cloud tools and products and how to make them successful. And in our view, that all begins and ends with network data visibility. So my name's Martin Crew from the product marketing team in Gigamon. Going to follow a very simple agenda and take 17 or 18 minutes to talk you through these points. So what are the challenges that cloud tools face and that you face trying to use them to manage a hybrid cloud network? So in our view, how do you manage the gaps and the complexity that comes with that? And again, in our view, it's all about the network data visibility. So that's what we'll focus on. Then we're going to talk about why many of your existing cloud tools aren't enough to respond to those challenges and problems, and how Gigamon helps you solve the problems. We'll then have a very brief summary of what we've talked about, and then into your questions. And please do shoot those questions through. This is a topic that we know from talking to our customers is very relevant to them. Organizations are sinking hundreds of thousands of dollars into cloud tools, and they want answers as to why these tools aren't as effective as they expect them to be. And that really is the gist of this presentation. This is all about how Gigamon can make those tools more effective and give you the end-to-end visibility that you need to secure the network, to make troubleshooting easier, and to ensure that user experience expectations are met. So let's talk about some of the challenges first. So when we talk to our customers, and we have now over 4,500 customers worldwide, including many of the largest and most demanding government and business organizations, we hear largely that the focus historically has been on north-south traffic, and many of the issues that organizations have had with that north-south traffic have been dealt with. But as they look at the cloud, hybrid cloud network, they're seeing there's increasing problems and vulnerabilities inside that network. Inside that network, you have many, many different tools. You have obviously a lot of complexity in the handoff of flows and traffic between those tools. That means you have a lot of blind spots. You have increasing costs associated with that. You have inflexibility because you often have to trade off flexibility in order to get this visibility you need. And with that, there come a number of things. One is regulatory and compliance challenges. So it's very, very difficult, for example, auditing data flowing all the way across the network when you have this complex hybrid infrastructure and you're having to get that data, compliance data or regulatory data from multiple tools. And then you also have a lot of application performance issues, and these can be very difficult to identify and to troubleshoot. So, when we talk to organizations, we find they're very much focused nowadays on east west or lateral traffic movement and in eliminating the blind spots in those environments. So, this is very much where Gigamon's focused. But before we get to that, let's just talk about another issue that comes from this. So, we've already said that these environments are very complex. You've got data centers, you've got virtualization, you've got a number of different public cloud environments. And the average Gigamon customer, for example, has 5 public cloud environments within their application infrastructures. So you have inherent complexity. You have a lot of tools that you've deployed to try to manage those. And those tools are doing a number of things. So they're handling the traffic acquisition. And again, when that has to encompass physical, virtual, containerized, cloud environments and use different techniques for accessing that cloud traffic like mirroring or tunneling, you have a lot of complexity in the traffic acquisition process. You also have a lot of complexity in the distribution process. So what are you sending to the tools? Are you sending packets? Are you filtering? Is everything decrypted? Are you using metadata? Are you replicating? So there's a lot of complexity at both ends of this equation. And therefore, most organizations have done a lot to orchestrate and automate that process. So organizationally, they've moved towards using centralized operations to do this. They've tried to get to unified visibility management. They're going deeper and deeper into cloud service provider integrations, and they're looking to automate as much of this as possible. So all of these elements introduce complexity. What we're trying to do with Gigamon is to simplify that. So our approach is to use what we call a deep observability pipeline. And this works across all of the environments that you're using. It accesses traffic from data centers, from virtualized workloads, from infrastructure as a service workloads, and it pipes that information to the various tools that need it in the format they need it. So whether it's raw packets, whether it's metadata in its various forms, or whether it's very abstracted network intelligence, this is what we are aiming to do. The way that we do it with the Gigamon Deep Observability Pipeline is once we get access to that traffic, we do that using the native tools and the capabilities of the data center and the cloud environments. So we can use physical taps, virtual taps, we can use mirroring, we can use tunneling, we can use all the appropriate techniques to access traffic in the most appropriate way. We can then transform that traffic. So knowing what tools need to see the traffic, we can transform the traffic into the formats most appropriate to those tools. And then beyond basic transformation, we can actually optimize. So we can look and see where we're seeing duplicate packets and dedupe the traffic. We can use filtering in a number of different ways to make sure that we're filtering out low risk, noisy traffic, and that the tools are only seeing the traffic they need to in order to secure and to troubleshoot the network. And then finally, we can broker. So this is a really core part of the Gigamon value proposition. One of the problems with getting efficiency into using cloud tools is that you often have to have one agent or one mirroring or one access approach for each of those tools. So you end up with a very, very complex infrastructure. With Gigamon, once you tap traffic in each of those environments, the Gigamon virtual tap, what we call the universal cloud tap, can distribute that traffic to all of the tools that need to see it in the format they need to see it. So we're massively reducing the number of agents and processes that you have working on your workloads. So that reduces compute cycles, and it makes the whole process a lot more efficient. And we're going to go into that in a minute. But this is the whole core of the Gigamon value proposition. How do we simplify this very, very complex cloud traffic management problem? Now, many of you are probably thinking, nah, I've got a lot of tools already. I understand this. Yeah, it's complex, but I can manage it. But let's just look at some of the issues that we see and we deal with on a day-to-day basis with our customers. Before we do that, I should just mention, when we talk about visibility across all environments, we're not just meaning the sort of the basic platforms. We're also extending that these days into containerized environments, which obviously are increasingly critical to people deploying cloud applications who need to scale those applications. Okay, so now back to my previous thought on what tools organizations are using and why those cloud native tools and the logs that they typically rely on just aren't enough. So we're going to look at visibility in the cloud without Gigamon and then with Gigamon. So without Gigamon, you have a lot of inefficiency. As I mentioned when I was talking about the Gigamon deep observability pipeline, you have this situation where every tool needs to have its own agent or mirroring service to support it. So you have inefficiency in terms of huge number of agents that need to be deployed, and that gets costly. So they're using CPU and bandwidth resources to support those processes. It's also duplicative. You have a monitoring environment for your on-premises, for your virtual, for every one of the clouds. And that duplication means it's very, very difficult to manage and to optimize traffic flows that move across the hybrid cloud. And particularly, it's very, very difficult to get this end-to-end visibility. And that means that there's likely to be blind spots, there's going to be security risks, and certainly, as we just mentioned, there's going to be a lot of inefficiency in how you might address that. So with Gigamon, what do we do and what's different? So what we do is that we wrap everything around with what we call the Gigamon Deep Observability Pipeline that I introduced a moment ago. This creates a lot of efficiency. So now you can reduce the number of monitoring tools because traffic can be collected from any of these cloud, on-premise, or virtualized instances and piped to any of the tools you have on the network. So if you want to use existing tools, for example, which many of our customers do, either in a transition phase or permanently, in fact, 78% of our customers use existing tools to manage cloud traffic. So we can actually reduce the number of monitoring tools or other types of tools that are out there. So whether it's monitoring or whether it's building a single security stack, we can help enable that. That means it's more cost effective. As I've said a couple of times now, we acquire traffic once and then send it to multiple tools. We can optimize that traffic. For years, in fact, let me think, for over 10 years now, we've had a suite of products called the GigaSmart tools that look at not just getting traffic from A to B, but what's the most efficient way to do that? So what are the filtering techniques? What are the flow mapping techniques? What are the duplication techniques or deduplication techniques we should apply in order to do that? And that can reduce traffic by 50% to many tools. That makes those tools more efficient and potentially means you need to buy or implement fewer instances of those tools to get the same end result. We add a lot of intelligence to the network. So, one of the things with cloud based tools is they typically work at the log level. So, for example, a lot of SIM or observability tools work at what's called the melt level, which is metrics, events, logs, and traces. So, they're essentially using the capabilities that developers build into the applications to monitor and manage those applications. What Gigamon does is we see the network level traffic. And this isn't an either or. So you can think about the cloud, the observability, the SIM tools giving you a top down view based on the logs and the events that they're seeing. What Gigamon does is give you the bottom up view of this is what's actually happening at the network. And it really is in the combination of those two things that you're going to understand what's really happening on the network. So, this idea of Gigamon adding intelligence to those existing tools that you rely on, whether they're observability tools, SIM tools, whatever, this is a critical part of the value add. And then finally, coming back to the first point I made on this slide, because we're wrapping this entire infrastructure around in the deep observability pipeline, we're delivering a common user interface. So that means that from a single console, you can see all the traffic moving across the network, all the flows. You can see what tools are deployed where they need to be extended, and you can help orchestrate that whole process. So this capability is called the GigaView Fabric Manager, and it's one of the, again, critical value adds that Gigamon brings to the table. So those are some of the reasons that we say cloud native tools and logs aren't enough. We're not criticizing the cloud tools. We're not saying that that you should discontinue using logs. We're saying that over and above those tools and the logs, you need to add packet level visibility in the cloud to get the network intelligence. Those tools need to be successful. Our most common use cases, clearly mentioned this already, traffic acquisition, aggregation, and optimization across the entire hybrid infrastructure. Visibility into east-west traffic, not just north-south traffic, so that you can eliminate blind spots. Making encrypted traffic accessible to all of those tools. So Gigamon has very, very powerful decryption and what we now also refer to as precryption capabilities that mean you can send traffic tools, send tools to traffic in decrypted formats that they can immediately use. So you're lowering the decryption burden on firewalls and on specific tools, and making sure that those tools are operating at peak efficiency. We can provide application layer visibility. So we're not just looking at the network level, which we can describe as sort of the breadth of visibility across the entire network. We're also looking at the depth of visibility, so everything from the packet level to the application level. And this is critical to troubleshoot problems when they occur and to optimize user experience, particularly in increasingly complex service or container-based applications. Using all this capability, we can automatically detect anomalous behavior, whether it's user behavior, traffic behavior, people trying to communicate with servers off the network that they shouldn't be, or running applications on the network that shouldn't be there. So we see all of this anomalous behavior that's potentially very threatening. And particularly for organizations that are moving towards a zero visibility model, this capability that we provide is critical at the foundational level to establishing that zero trust visibility. And one of the other things that we can do, again, is that because we work at so many different levels, we can actually use our metadata capabilities to make sure that the logs that many of these tools rely on have not been tampered with and actually are genuinely reflecting what's happening on the network. And we do this not just at the level of, hey, here's a toolkit. We learn from our user experiences, and we've built a library of over 100 what we call Gigamon validated designs that give you a fast start on this stuff. So we're not just saying, hey, here's all the things you could do. We're saying, here's the things that most of our existing users have done, different ways that they've addressed the problems that you're thinking about. And this really does give you a fast start on getting cloud visibility to those tools. So, talk about three things here. So, we enable tools with complete visibility. We support over 200 different tools, not just north south, but east west. And we're not just providing packet level visibility, we're providing intelligence as well. Secondly, this helps reduce tooling costs and complexity. So we can help reduce traffic to many of those tools by 50% without losing fidelity in terms of what they can see. We can enable reuse of existing on-prem tools with cloud data. That means less training or cross-training of your existing staff, and you can actually protect the investment in those tools. And overall, the fact that we're sending less traffic to those tools means those tools have got more capability, their throughput is increased. And that potentially means you can consolidate those tools or defer or eliminate future tools purchases. And final slide. The net of all of this is that using Gigamon, we're helping you deliver the security and the transformation goals that your organization is tasked with. So we can help you deploy a more consistent, higher level security posture. We can reduce potentially things like SIM dependence. One of the things we hear from many customers is that they're way too dependent on their SIM technology, and that technology, often being consumption based, is getting extremely expensive. So we can help organizations use things like security data lakes as the main repository for a lot of this data, and therefore reduce their reliance on SIMs. We can help provide increased alignment between your IT, your SecOps, and your CloudOps teams. Everyone can see the same data in the tools in which they need to see it. So when you have problems and need to troubleshoot those problems, everyone's working from the same data set. And finally, one of the critical things that we enable is simplified and accelerated cloud migration. All of us know that the cloud is actually much more complex than most of us had hoped. There's many more moving parts, and that often means that migrating applications to the cloud is more complex, more time-consuming, more costly than people expected, particularly than our execs expected. So using the Gigamon approach, we can help simplify and accelerate cloud migration and get that process of business transformation back on track. Okay, well, that was all I wanted to cover in my remarks. So now I want to sort of address your questions. So Jess, what's happening on the question line? Anything interesting coming in?
Lots, Martin. Lots of interesting stuff coming in. Thank you, as always, for a great presentation. So many cool takeaways. And I know the audience is just buzzing, so I'm going to jump right into some questions. You ready?
Yeah, you bet.
All right, so let's start with this one here. It sounds like you're saying cloud tools aren't good. Is that right, Martin? Is that what you're saying?
Well, if that's how this came across, then I've obviously not stated my situation clearly enough. No, we're not saying cloud tools are not enough.
Good.
Cloud tools, well, we're not saying that they're bad.
Right.
What we're saying is that cloud tools do what they were designed to do extremely well. So the tools in the Amazon stack do what they're supposed to do well, but they can't see what's happening in a Microsoft stack or the VMware stack. And those tools typically operate, as I said earlier on, at the events and logs level. So they're viewing historic information. They're not looking at what's happening on the network now. And that's because they don't have this network level visibility. And that's what Gigamon brings to bear. So we can feed those tools packets or metadata or network level intelligence that help them do their jobs more efficiently. So that was the point I was trying to make, Jess.
Well, that does seem pretty clear. And I think there is a big difference between niche and bad. So
Yes.
glad we clarified that. All right, we use Gigamon in our data centers. So can we send cloud data to our on-prem security tools?
Yes, the answer is you can. And this is something, as I mentioned, I think in the presentation, that
Hmm.
many of our users do. In fact, 78% in a survey we did last summer. So whether you're doing this on just a transitional basis or whether you want this to be part of a long-term architecture, there's a lot of good reasons to do it. I mean, you already own these tools. You've already got people trained up to use them. You've already built a lot of routines, dashboards, and things around them. So it makes a lot of sense to take cloud data and use it with your existing tooling.
Perfect. Okay, so a nice, easy yes, yes, and we've got you. Love that. Okay, I think we're gonna be able to squeeze in one more, Martin. Let's try to wrap up on this one. What about packet capture in the cloud? Can you support that?
Yes. So one of the things that many people don't um, I want to say don't understand, but one of the things that cloud vendors have told customers for
Mm,
years and years is you don't need to worry about what's happening at the network. We manage that for you. We're helping simplify this. And of course, the deeper you get into cloud and the deeper you get into particularly hybrid and multi cloud, you realize that that's really not the case. You
mm.
do need to see the packets, you do need to see the data flows, particularly when they are moving across one or more environments. So that's one of the critical things that Gigamon brings to the table.
Hmm.
And we bring it to the table with now 20 years experience and doing it for a lot of the top government and defense
Nice.
agencies, intelligence agencies, customers worldwide. So if you choose to use a tool like Gigamon, you're leveraging a lot of very deep expertise in using this packet capture data in the cloud environment.
Important know-how that we always love that expert element, and certainly you bring that, Martin, when you come to chat with us, so thank you. I so wish we could keep going and take advantage of your expertise a bit longer, but unfortunately we are coming up at the end of time, so we're going to leave it here. But before you leave us, Martin, one last piece of advice: if somebody wants to get started with Gigamon and learn a little bit more or jump right in, what do you recommend as that step one?
Yeah, so step one should always be go to our website. You'll find not just a lot of information there, you'll also find test drives. So if you want to try this stuff for yourself, which I think everyone should do, everyone should be skeptical about what a vendor says. You can go to the website, you can look at some of the test drives there we've got for the various cloud environments, and you can give it a try. So that would be my recommendation. Go to the website, take the test drive, or engage with us in a conversation with one of our systems engineers about your particular needs.
Perfect. All right. Well, that is an awesome next step. And I'm sure everyone out there will take advantage. Martin, thank you so much for being here with us today. As always, it is so much fun to chat with you.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody.
All right, and now it is time for all of you to answer a question. Martin did a great job of answering some questions for us, but now it's your turn. So what additional information would you like to get about the Gigamon solution? So think of this as your holiday shopping list. What would be helpful for you in terms of following up on everything that you just heard from Martin? So obviously lots of great information, lots of great insight, and there's so much more to dig into. So click on that holiday shopping list, click on that wish list there, and let Gigamon know what they can send your way. All right, I see Paul needs a second cup of coffee, and then jet on back here, Paul, because we've got more in store for you. I am going to very quickly give away a prize, and then we're going to move into our next session. But before I do that, I do want to remind you all to be accessing the handouts tab. Every time we go through a session, make sure you're clicking on that handouts tab and getting those additional and follow-up resources. So from Gigamon today, we have the 2023 Hybrid Cloud Security Survey, Perception versus Reality. This is going to really dig into and explore the state of hybrid security, what you need to know, what do we think that we know versus what is actually happening. So make sure you've got that downloaded, hold on to that, save that for later, because you are going to want to read that. And as Paul just noted, there's a lot of back-to-back information here, so you're jetting around and getting those coffee breaks breaks in whenever you can. I love it. And you just won't have time to kind of explore these handouts in their full capacity right now. So make sure you're opening the tabs, downloading them, save them, hold on to them, and then come back to them after we wrap up. So if you've got that handout tab open, you're clicking on the poll, you're getting in any last questions, and I will give away some prizes. We got lots going on here. All right, we're going to do a $300 Amazon gift card, and we're going to do one of our iPad Pros just to kick things off with a bang. A reminder that you do need to be here live and present at the MegaCast in order to win. Our very first lucky winner of a $300 Amazon gift card today is Daniel Durham of Indiana. Daniel Durham of Indiana, congratulations. And our very first winner of an iPad Pro is Marcel Smith of Kentucky. Marcel Smith of Kentucky. Congratulations to our awesome winners. Now stay tuned because there's still lots more chances to win a prize today. We'll be following up with all winners after we wrap. Don't forget about the best question gift card. We'll be looking at all the questions asked and following up with them after the end of the MegaCast. So lots and lots and lots of chances yet to win. So I saw a couple of frowny faces out there. Don't be too sad. There are more chances to win. All right. Well, we are going to keep things rolling because we've got, speaking of winning, we've got Rubrik up next. And who doesn't love a great Rubrik presentation? So up next on this amazing day, all about the cloud, I am so excited to introduce you to Robert West, sales engineer at Rubrik. Robert, thank you so much for being back here with us again on the MegaCast. It's always fun to chat with you. And I know you've got a lot lined up for us. We're going to dig into some cloud security with Rubrik. So lots to do. And I am going to hand things on over to you. Take it away, Robert.
Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Robert West. I'm a sales engineer here at Rubrik, based out of Austin, Texas. Today, we're going to be discussing Rubrik's offerings for securing your cloud environments. All right, so here are some of the objectives I'm going to talk you through in regards to some of the key challenges you may be facing when it comes to data protection in the cloud. Then we'll talk about how Rubrik can step in and help. At the end of the presentation, I'll walk you through a brief tour of our Polaris platform, where we make all this possible from a single pane of glass. First things first, let's do a brief level set on Rubrik and the core value proposition of our platform, where it really all begins. First, we modernize the way that traditional legacy backup is done through our single scale-out software fabric approach built on a 2U 4-node hyperconverged appliance on-prem, which drastically consolidates and simplifies the way that core backup is done. We support all enterprise apps for this workflow with an API-first platform that is secure and flexible to automate, driven essentially by our SLAs. Out of the box, it's natively immutable through our append-only Atlas file system. So once data is written to Rubrik, it can't be edited, overwritten, encrypted, etc. We also provide a logical air gap by not presenting Rubrik over the network via standard network protocols like NFS or SMB. Instead, every communication is done with secure APIs. Second, what we will mostly be talking about today is that our platform natively extends to the cloud. Our software was designed in the cloud era with cloud in mind, where we can dynamically move data to the cloud, spin things up in the cloud, take a VM and archive it to the cloud, and protect cloud native assets. Last but not least, where we're going and our vision as a company is to deliver additional business value beyond just the core backup layer. We provide additional insights with use cases like cyber resiliency and data governance by making use of the backup metadata that we ingest. So think of monitoring snapshots for any anomalous changes or finding out exactly where sensitive data like credit cards and social security numbers might be out in the open. And we also provide you with threat hunting capabilities so that our customers can scan existing snapshots for indicators of compromise to help signal when an infection likely started in the first place. And that's the core platform in general. But let's jump back in and why we're here. And that is to talk about the cloud and the challenges to managing and protecting that data. So here's a checklist and what we're trying to solve for here. Three things. The first, quite fitting for today, is figuring out how do I solve for the cloud? We find that enterprises are trying to solve for data management in a hybrid architecture. So that means they're adopting new cloud platforms and even deploying multiple cloud platforms to achieve a lot of different things unique to that specific organization. Secondly, customers we talk to are trying to make it easier to run their digital estate. Automation is a key tenet to our operational efficiencies. So when thinking about your next data management solution, it's something that must be easy to automate and integrate into your existing environment. Last, but certainly not least, is tackling the security risk. Data security and being able to recover from ransomware plus data governance are top of mind for really everyone. A data management solution would be incomplete if it did not provide recovery capabilities for cyber attacks and region failures. Another problem that comes into play and has to do with the shared responsibility model, where one part of the setup is the responsibility of the cloud provider, and another part of it is the responsibility of the customer. But no matter what, when it comes to security, it's always going to fall in the lap of the customer. And because of that, they're seeking out well-architected cloud solutions. And because of this, it can become especially tricky if you're hybrid, multi-cloud, or operating at an enormous scale, whether it's infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, or software as a service apps. And here's the main challenge for those with existing workloads in the cloud. A typical cloud architecture often involves tens, if not hundreds of different account subscriptions across many different clouds and regions, which combined with manual job scheduling or painful scripting, it can really drain the productivity from IT teams. In the field, we're hearing from some of our prospects that they're having to set up all these different components around things like retention and frequency, then having to deploy resources within multiple regions for each account, where now you have to manage backup schemes across all these different regions. However, at Rubrik, we can help you solve this and ensure that your data is backed up and protected no matter where it sits in the cloud. Our platform can tie in regardless of where your organization is in its cloud journey, whether you're 90% on-prem and have a deadline to be in the cloud in the next 6 to 12 months, or you're born in the cloud and building all your apps there. So, we can definitely extend security and governance to the cloud for you. Our customers are all on a journey to the cloud, and thus far, this is what we have helped them solve. Rubrik makes it easy to archive backup data to low-cost storage in the cloud. We can also help orchestrate their existing applications into the cloud to accelerate their move away from on-premise infrastructure. And we also help to ensure their new cloud native workloads are protected. First up, archival. Most customers, if they have an on-prem data center and have replaced a legacy solution with Rubrik, will take an archive of their backup data and send it to the public cloud, maybe something like an AWS S3 bucket or Azure Blob. Our technology does incremental forever in the archive piece. So it's efficient with how we're placing the data in the cloud bucket. We can also automate that lifecycle of how the data tiers and when it tiers based on policies and storage class. This is all controlled within our SLA policy domain to dictate when and where you want your data archived. Because again, of all the metadata and how it's indexed, it's searchable. And if you need to pull back data out of the archive with our software, you can retrieve singular files without pulling the whole VM back. So if you had an archive living in an S3 IA infrequent access bucket, but maybe there's a document you've been asked to pull from 3 months ago, which is no longer in production, it's in the backup. Or let's say you want to set up an SLA policy that says you want to take snapshots every 6 hours, keep that data local on the appliance for 30 days, but then you also have a retention requirement of 2 years. You can then set up the SLA policy to reflect this need, so data after it's been retained locally for 30 days can automatically get pushed up to the least expensive tier in the cloud. We also, of course, offer end-to-end encryption, 256-bit at rest and at flight. Next up, cloud instantiation. This is a feature of ours that we call Cloud On, which is only available currently for AWS and Azure. Customers protecting their on-prem workloads using Rubrik usually implement this for things like disaster recovery, app migration, or an accelerated test dev environment from their existing snapshots on the appliance. Technically speaking, what this does is it supports conversion on an on-prem VM to an EC2 instance in AWS or a VM in Azure, irrespective of whether if the snapshot's available locally on the brick or has already been archived to AWS or Azure. It does this by converting the VMDK to an AMI for AWS or VHD for Azure, from which an instance can be launched in the cloud. Rubrik supports two workflows for converting and instantiating an on-premise VM in the cloud. We can do it on demand, providing flexibility of a good RPO, as an end user can go back in time on any snapshot and hit the launch in the cloud button, or you could choose to schedule this conversion. Once that is enabled, the Cloud On job will execute every 2 hours by default and convert the latest snapshot, last point in time snapshot to that particular image format. Last up is Cloud Native Protection. This is delivered as a service based snapshotting tool available through Polaris GPS, which we'll touch on, which I'll show you here in a bit. This software is used to protect workloads that are infrastructure as a service or platform as a service in the cloud. Because some customers, after they've lifted and shifted or they built things cloud native, they want to make sure that they can provide the same level of governance and security. First of all, for this capability, it's software as a service from a configuration standpoint. There's no running resources like compute nodes or anything like that in your cloud account. All we're doing is connecting via API from our console, which is an aggregation of metadata. It's a control plane, if you will. We connect from that control plane via API to your cloud account, and you're off and running. Implementation usually only takes several minutes. So it's very quick to set up and consume. For scalable protection, we offer the ability to create a policy that spans hundreds of thousands of resources in the cloud by simply telling what kind of RPO and RTO you want. For instance, you could say, I want to be able to back up all of my cloud resources, whether it's RDS workloads or EC2 once a day. I want to retain that data for 15 days and then archive it out somewhere else. You could set that policy up and the software handles the entire backup and recovery process. We take a lot of the manual work out of having to go configure all these different components in the cloud. And 90% of the clients we talk to tell us that their cloud teams are launching and building things in the cloud really fast. And most times it's challenging for them to get a baseline backup and be able to prove to both themselves and internal and external stakeholders that the data is protected. And through the SLA domain, it makes it very easy to always ensure that you have a baseline backup. From a recovery standpoint, it's near zero RTO, just several clicks to recover. You can recover things across region and account in the cloud. Everything is searchable, and we present you with that data back very quickly. In terms of security, a logical air gap provides protection from ransomware, keeping your backups data isolated and safe in the case of compromise. And from a usability standpoint, we purposely developed a no-brainer approach. We have a point-and-click multi-cloud dashboard experience that the operator can go into, derive reporting from, have visibility, plain and simple, in a way that some native tooling from cloud provider cannot do. And then from the cloud builders or DevOps folks, we have the ability to deploy this as a code with a dedicated Terraform provider like we talked about earlier. So you can auto provision Rubrik up and down as you're launching cloud templates across different resources in AWS and Azure. It's really flexible in how to manage, and that's our cloud native protection at a high level. Lastly, I do want to show that we cover and protect a broad range of workloads, the most popular being EC2 instances, Azure VMs, VMware Cloud, SQL, and M365, just to name a few. We actually announced back in August of last year that we teamed up with Microsoft to co-engineer some projects with them, which in fact included backing up and protecting M365, which includes, of course, Exchange, OneDrive, SharePoint, and Teams. It's all derived as a service, and the backups are hosted inside our own Azure tenant, providing customers with that logical air gap and the operational freedom that comes with Rubrik managing that setup end to end. I would actually love to show you this real quick when we jump into Polaris. And having said that, I'm going to go ahead and dive into Polaris GPS really quickly. Bear with me for a second, folks. So this is Polaris GPS. This is that SaaS-based platform that I've been talking about. Think of it as the manager of managers as it pertains to Rubrik. It's pulling in all the telemetry data that you're protecting with Rubrik, whether it be on-prem or cloud native for Azure, AWS, GCP, or SaaS-based for M365. So for OneDrive, Exchange, SharePoint, and Teams, to give you a single aggregated view of your entire environment that you're protecting with Rubrik. As it pertains to M365 or cloud native, it's very easy to set up. So we're going to go to our M365 offering here. You would click Add Subscription, put in your global admin permissions for OneDrive, SharePoint, Exchange, and Teams. At no point would we store those credentials. We use modern authentication, so OAuth 2.0, to create that secure sync with your M365 estate. And at that point, you start creating these SLAs and protecting these particular objects. So I'm going to go ahead and go to assign SLA domain. For the sake of this demo, I'm just going to assign an SLA or show you the process of assigning an SLA just to Exchange. But know that you can assign a single SLA across all the objects in M365. You can also get very granular and assign it at the user level as well. So we're going to click Next. Out of the solution, you'll have a gold, a silver, and a bronze SLA, but you can certainly create your own. And I'll walk you through that workflow right now. We can click Create. And then on the left, we're going to be looking at RPOs. On the right, we're going to look at retention. So with M365, we can take snapshots every 4 hours. So say we want to hang on to that for 3 days, let's say a daily, hang on to that for 30 days, let's say a monthly for 12 months. Again, this is completely customizable based on your requirements. We're then going to click Next, review the SLA. If everything looked good, we click Create, and we would start protecting that environment or that Exchange object. From a recovery standpoint, it's super easy. The workflow is the same, whether it's on-prem, M365, or cloud native. You're going to be presented with this this calendar view here in a second when I go to the user that I want to recover. And then we see the SLA that's assigned to this particular user, which again can be at the object level or the user level. So if we go back to, let's say, the 12th and we want to recover, click Recover. We can either recover Aaron's entire mailbox to himself or to another user if Aaron has exited the organization, or we can crack open his mailbox and recover specific components. We also have the ability to provide you with a Google-like search functionality to search based on the actual title of the email or attachment to locate that specific email and then provide you with various recovery options as well, the same recovery options. Original user to another user. Later this year, you also have the ability to download locally to your browser. That workflow is very similar across the board, whether it's Exchange, OneDrive, SharePoint, or Teams. We do have we have that download locally option for OneDrive, SharePoint, and Teams. And again, that's on the roadmap for Exchange. As it pertains to cloud native, let's go to all, and we can see all the objects we're currently protecting within this Rubrik demo environment. So I'll just choose Azure specifically for the sake of this demo. Obviously, we protect VMs and applications, SQL databases, as well as managed SQL instances. And with these two offerings here, we provide point-in-time recovery, getting you down to the second, granularity when it comes to recover. Again, very easy to set up. You put in your global admin permissions for all of your cloud accounts, and we auto-discover your environment and provide you with a singular view of all your various accounts. Once we do that auto-discovery, you can start with managed protection. So we're going to select these particular VMs. Before we jump into creating that SLA, you click this ellipses here, and it gives you some options for configuring, right? So we can do file level recovery. So it does require some compute to be spun up when we take those, it's exocompute, so it's not always running, but whenever we take that first full backup and then every subsequent incremental backup, we'll spin up small exocompute within your environment to allow that file level recovery, and then we'll spin it right back down. Super cost effective. Also, out of the solution is going to be in a crash consistent state. From our backup perspective, but you can enable app consistency. Does require our agent, but because of this, we'll capture all the data within memory too for that specific VM. So when we click Manage Protection, again, you have that gold, silver, and bronze, and if you hover over them, it'll tell you exactly what the RPO and retention is. But then we can obviously create an SLA from scratch. So I'm going to select the object I want to protect with this particular SLA. On the left, we're looking at our RPOs. On the right, retention again. So say I want to take a snapshot every 1 hour, hang on it for 2 days, a daily for 30 days, and then a monthly for 12 months. We're then going to click Next. We have the ability to enable archiving. So, at a certain point in time, which you dictate, we'll tier that off to, very cheap, deep storage for long-term retention. I do not have a storage account associated with Azure apparently in this particular demo, so I cannot do that at this time, but you do have that option. We now can enable replication. So we select the region we want to replicate to. And then we tell the system how long we want that data to sit at that secondary site before aging out. Click Next. If everything looked good, you click Create. Now this is a demo environment and I have limited access permissions that I'm granted here, so I cannot do it, but it's really that simple. And then lastly, before we conclude this, this demo here, I just want to show you our recovery options. So if I pick on this, I'll just select this VM here at the bottom. Again, you're going to see that same workflow. We have that calendar view. We see the SLA that's assigned to it. And when we go to recovery, let's see, I chose this one because we do have indexing available, so I can search. Based on the file name to locate specific files. And when I go to recover, I can recover specific files, traverse the folder hierarchy. I've provided, Rubric provides that Google-like search functionality. We can restore the existing VM from this snapshot, or we can export to another region or account. It's really that simple. Unfortunately, I'm coming up on time here, but if you'd like to see a deep dive on Rubric and all its capabilities, please reach out to your Rubric sales team or your vendor of choice with how you procure technology, and they'll get that call set up for you. Thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Well, Robert, we appreciate it as well. And I see Vinay is saying, always a great presentation from Rubric. I totally agree. You could always count on that team to have some great information. I saw some high fives coming in for the user experience, the look, the feel, the usability of the solution there. And I have to agree, and definitely see that from Rubric every time we get into a demo. And it does make a difference, right? If something is a great tool, but is hard to use, then you're not going to use it. It's just that simple. So I'm glad that we got to take that time to talk with Robert. I'm glad that we got to get into a demo. Now, Robert and I decided to go a bit long on the demo, which means that we're going to move our questions over to live chat. So keep those questions coming in. We'll get some answers back to you. And anything we don't get to, and this goes throughout the day, any question that we don't get to in a live Q&A or over live chat, We are making sure that those get to the teams after we wrap. So you're going to get some email follow-ups as well. So I know things move very quickly. We got a lot to cram into the day today, but keep those questions coming in, both because it is great in terms of bringing up that engagement, but also it is going to enter you to win that $50 Best Question Amazon gift card. So keep those questions coming in. Adam, Roderick, I'm seeing some high fives from you for rubric. I love that. I will make sure that Robert sees those as well. That's awesome. And we are going to go ahead and do a prize giveaway before we get into our next session. But before I do that, I'll remind you again to head on over to the handouts tab. Make sure that you've clicked on the rubric link and get that technical white paper on Rubrik Security Cloud. It's going to deep dive into how it works, some cloud native protection for Azure VMs. It's a great read and an awesome follow-up to the conversation that we just had with Robert. Obviously, always lots more to learn, so you want to make sure that you're clicking on the handout, and if you haven't already done so, clicking on that wish list, that Christmas shopping list, your holiday shopping list up on the screen here. Do you want a data sheet in your stocking? Do you want a technical white paper? What would be helpful for you in terms of following up on this conversation? So click on that wish list there, and Rubrik will make sure that they send you exactly what you're looking for. Okay, so you are clicking on the handouts. You are clicking on the wish list on your screen. You are getting in those last questions or high fives for Rubrik, and you are doing a lot of stuff, so I better give you a prize. We are going to do a $300 Amazon gift card, and that is going to go to someone who is here live and present with us at the MegaCast. But as I always say, where else would you rather be today, my friends? All right, so our next winner of a $300 Amazon gift card is Ann Brink of Wisconsin. Ann Brink of Wisconsin, you have won a $300 Amazon gift card. We will follow up with you after we wrap, so stay tuned for that. Now, don't worry, folks. We have lots more chances to win, so stay tuned. Keep waiting. Keep those fingers crossed because there's more chances ahead. All right. Well, speaking of good things ahead, let's get into our very next session. And I am so excited to introduce you all to our next presenters on the MegaCast. We have a dynamic duo here with us, a powerhouse team from TierPoint. Up next, we will be chatting with Carrie Paget, Cloud Product Marketing Manager, and Sarah Fowler, AVP Marketing at TierPoint. Carrie and Sarah, I'm so happy to welcome you both here to these All About the Cloud MegaCast, and I know you have a great conversation in store for us. I'm going to step back and hand things on over to you. Take it away, Sarah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having us. Hello, everyone. I am Sarah Fowler, AVP of Marketing here at TierPoint. I've been in the cloud and data center industry for about 10 years now, primarily in product marketing. My job at TierPoint is really focused on understanding our customers' challenges and business objectives and how we at TierPoint can help them find the right technology, or more often than not, the mix of technologies to help meet their goals. I'm very excited to be here with you guys today discussing how to be successful in the cloud, and also to be co-presenting with Carrie Paget. She'll introduce herself here in just a second and get us started. In this webinar, we're going to share some valuable insights, some real-world examples, and some tips to help you navigate the complexities of cloud adoption. Whether you're migrating to the cloud, optimizing your infrastructure, or you're just seeking new and innovative ways to leverage cloud services, hopefully there's a little bit of something for everyone in this webinar. Carrie?
Hello, everybody. I'm Carrie Paget. I'm the Product Marketing Manager here at TierPoint for Public Cloud Services. It's so nice to be with all of you today. First up, before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about who TierPoint is as an organization. TierPoint helps companies find the right mix of cloud solutions to meet their individual workload needs. So we work to find the best fit solution that our customers need to address their entire portfolio. Our focus is to find the best venue possible for workloads and applications, regardless of whether or not our customers have workloads in one of our 40 colocation data centers, within a private cloud, or finally in a public cloud. We are there with them to walk along their entire migration journey and talk about their security and compliance requirements, to talk about recoverability, and then to talk about the methods that they need to use to maintain their environment in a best practice manner. All right, so now for what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be taking a look at a real-world migration example. And this real-world example is about an organization in the financial industry that came to TierPoint because they were just starting out and trying to figure out how to take advantage of the features and all the benefits of the public cloud. And so our approach with them is to first gain an understanding of their business drivers. Why did they want to have these conversations in the first place? What were they after? And we learned from these discussions, it was really about making sure that they did things like free up their internal IT teams so that they could focus on innovation and set up a pathway for future modernization, all while making the cost savings shift from CapEx to OpEx. Like so many organizations, they were looking to get out of the hardware business and needed some guidance on how best to do so. Behind the scenes, though, they were very, very concerned about security and compliance. They needed to make sure they had resiliency across their entire organization, all the way back from their brick and mortar branches through their virtual presence online, and then back into their back-end infrastructure that would eventually be hosted into the public cloud. We also worked with them, and we think this is a very important piece. Even before you start looking at your tooling to try and set up a strategic level, what does success look like? And so we helped them define what they did in order to consider this entire effort a success. Whether we were talking about finding them a partner that would do operational work for them and make sure that they had best practice as their day-to-day duties, whether we're talking about cost and how well they could define what a public cloud footprint needed to look like in order to work from a cost perspective, or whether or not they were just looking to make sure that their compliance audits were just as good, if not better, than they were in previous years. So all told, we helped them set this up, and we're going to refer back to this real-world migration scenario multiple times throughout this presentation. Okay, now we're going to take a look at the TierPoint catalog, and as you can see, we've got a wide range of services in the catalog here at TierPoint. But what I really want to focus on is something that's near the bottom there, and that's the advisory and consultation service stack, because this service allows us to have a truly agnostic approach to our customers' workloads in order to make sure that we're helping them select the right kind of tool and the right kind of strategy that will enable them to thrive in a public cloud environment. Our architects and our engineers consulted with this financial organization to help them uncover the migration strategy to achieve all of their business goals. So as we take a look at our agenda here, which is going to cover everything from hybrid cloud to the migration journey, security and compliance, and then how we can best approach serverless and PaaS solutions as a method to achieve real agility and real business improvements. That's where the magic will happen in the public cloud, and we'll tie all of this back to our real-world example, the financial organization that we just reviewed. So first up, let's talk about hybrid cloud with this particular customer scenario. And this is something we see very, very often, is our customers, these organizations have a lot of experience and they spend a lot of time, effort, and their budget dollars on the standard traditional architectures, whether we're talking about VMware or we're talking about Dell or any number of other vendors. They don't want to abandon that completely. And they value the control that they get with having a co-location or private cloud because they get access all the way down to the hardware level. But They need the ability to have more flexibility with the public cloud, and they need the ability to take advantage of scalability within the public cloud, because moving from colocation to private cloud does enable some level of scalability, but then moving to public cloud offers a great deal more. And it allows for temporary scalability and ephemeral workloads that aren't necessarily possible with more traditional architectures. So the idea behind what this financial firm wanted to do was make sure they could access what they had today, migrate the workloads that they needed over to the public cloud, and then maintain control, maintain best practices across their entire stack. We were able to help them do this because we have a focus on workloads. This is about strategy, making sure that you've got pathways for the individual applications that you use to run your business. And since every cloud journey is different, because every customer is different and every workload is different, we help our customers at an application stack or workload level, whether that means working to pursue a more native kind of solution or something that is a complete replacement using SaaS. Or maybe they just need a lift and shift to buy some time in order to refactor or re-architect an application and to take advantage of the benefits of the public cloud. We help companies on an individual basis, and that's how we helped serve our customer scenario, the financial organization, by focusing on their individual workload requirements. All right, next, let's take a look at their migration journey. So when it came time to plan for this financial firm's migration, when we're talking about these application stacks, we use the cloud adoption framework. And if you want to talk about a tool that is truly agnostic, these frameworks, whether we're talking about Azure or AWS, are built on the idea that you have to truly understand the needs and truly understand your targets in order to do a good job of migrating. And you start with cloud readiness to make sure that your internal staff is skilled correctly to be able to support these workloads, and to make sure that your landing zone is set up in such a way that it will be able to support your future governance needs for security and compliance. It's only after you start that process that you can then move into adoption, where you're talking about your individual workloads and then move on to more day-to-day management, data management, and then your rigorous governance for all of these applications. And of course, as new technology arises and you have to worry about the latest and the greatest, you have to start the cycle over again. The idea being that the process is key because it enables us to do so much more. Now on to talking about migration tools. There are so many tools that are available. It's important to understand when to use a tool as much as what tools to use. So when you're looking at the services that you have within your existing environment, whether we're talking about databases like Microsoft SQL, or maybe you've got MongoDB within your environment, it's important to assess them, and we can use native tools in some cases, things like AWS Migration Hub or Azure Migrate, but it's also important to be able to have more tools that are agnostic in order to view these environments. So something like Live Optics, which has the ability to look at your current environment and extrapolate as to what your high water cost would look like for a future state. That's an important part of the toolbox. It's only after that that we can then tackle migration of individual databases, in this case, the individual workflows, as we as we're moving either using native tools or third-party tools for migration into a steady state that matches up with the capabilities, even if it's not matching a platform, but matching with the capabilities that you require out of your applications. Now, that's not the only thing we have to think about when we're talking about migration, though. And I think that's where we need to start worrying about security and compliance. And for that, I'd like to turn it over to Sarah.
Awesome. Thanks, Carrie. So if you'll notice, we're not really calling out specific tools per se, although I will say our team certainly have opinions on the ones available and can provide guidance or suggestions to our clients. But our goal here is to really educate you more on the frameworks or the tools needed to take on cloud projects. So when our architects meet with clients, one of the first areas they tackle is security and compliance. For whatever reason, there still seems to be this misunderstanding that if I put things in the cloud, it's more secure. I put them in the cloud and the security's on the vendor, whether it's email services and collaboration like chat, Slack, Teams, etc., or your databases. That's just simply not the case. And so we really like to focus on security as a starting point. What has changed? If I move this workload into the cloud, what are the new areas and things I have to think about in relation to security that actually spark a conversation or get people together kind of asking how the impact is going to play out? It's really this better together story. Many of the organizations we work with too also have small but mighty IT teams. So you may not have a dedicated security resource, a CSO or chief security officer, but you should still bring those stakeholders, those individuals or teams to the table, the ones that care about security, so that they too can be part of those conversations. Now, the reality is customers' expectations of how they want to interact with the technology has changed. In our financial institution example, customers want to bank the way they want to bank. Their employees wanted to work the way they wanted to work. We have all heard about the generational changes of behavior from millennials to Gen Z. So defining the landscape of those experiences means we've got to make sure we understand the security landscape and the threats that are available to us, whether it's a bad actor in the environment, gaining access through lateral movement with credentials, ransomware, email phishing, and the like. We need to make sure we understand what those new experiences are and how my customers or how my employees are interacting with my data and my environments. That way we can better protect the organization. Now, the top level you're seeing here is basically the endpoint antivirus or traditional endpoint security, right where we've got some kind of tooling or research on the activity that's happening on a device. Then as we move into more of the cloud conversation, whether again that's infrastructure or collaboration apps, we're looking at cloud native security tools, but then you'll start realizing, wait, there's some gaps here and I need to fill those gaps. And that's really where those SIEM and SOAR tools to kind of bring that full XDR umbrella together and bridge that gap for you. And the number one challenge of security there is observability. We can't take action unless we can observe it. One final piece that needs to be addressed in any cloud project is compliance. We already mentioned that your employees often want to work the way they want to work. However, that means new opportunities, not just for security breaches, but data risks as well. Whether it's just simple human error, so I interacted with something that was sensitive information and I shared that with a colleague or externally and maybe I shouldn't have, or maybe you operate with a security by obscurity standpoint where it's kind of over here hidden and no one really knows it's there. We need to make sure that we understand several things as it relates to compliance. 1, where is our data? 2, how do we interact with that data? And 3, how did that work together to protect the data across the board? There are tools out there like Azure Purview that can help you understand the data insights and apply classifications to it and then enable data loss prevention type policies. This right here is critical for financial customers, as in our example, because they have customers that are interacting with the most sensitive information. They want to make sure that those customers are empowered to bank the way they want and enable those experiences across their mobile branches, etc., but making sure the data is secured at all times. Now we're going to shift away from security and compliance and move on to talk about business agility. Business agility is a huge driver for cloud adoption, and it allows organizations to respond faster, to experiment more, and ultimately to deliver more value to their customers. In the example that we've been discussing, we helped this customer start at the very beginning of their cloud journey. On the slide here, you can see in the left-hand column kind of 4 actions or outcomes where organizations are generally starting. This is where they are at the beginning. They're moving to the public cloud. They want to shorten time to market. They're going to reassess their investments, and they're going to enable remote development. The focus is on these areas first, and eventually they get to the 4 on the right. What we find is that customers are actually, depending on their initiative, somewhere in between. So like our financial client, they're just moving to the public cloud. They were in their own data center, they had a need, we understood their workloads, their objectives, and we were there to help start their journey on this path. But in today's landscape, especially around this ethos of cash positive and making sure you understand your impact on the budget, maybe you're down to reassessing investments, where during the pandemic, we threw a bunch of budget and empowerment at the cloud to get employees working, to get customers enabled, to get students learning. But now we really need to understand, is that the right move? Like, what does that mean? Then you've got other customers who already went through the transformation process, and AI is rapidly expanding, and we need to now infuse intelligence and enable new experiences that aren't only to keep and retain customers, but to empower and to drive new revenue. So within the topics that were in that right-hand column, this sparks a lot of conversation around, well, what are the technologies and how can I use them today in my business? We all know that AI is kind of the big buzz right now. We're seeing it everywhere. We're seeing a lot of disruption in that. But what we tell our customers is that the technology is there. It can do just about anything that you dream up. But what we really need to focus on is why. Why do we want to use this, and how do we want to use this? Why is my board coming to me and saying, hey, we need to launch an AI-driven project? Dive in there. Understand the initiative. Why are they asking this question? Is it a cash flow thing? Is it a customer retainment thing? Is it a market penetration thing? Understanding that why can then help us frame up the right conversations into which technology best fits that initiative. Now, we see some great customers that are all the way through the right side, where they're going into serverless and low code, they're adopting cloud native technology, they're doing amazingly disruptive things. But at the same time, just because they've adopted those leading edge technologies doesn't mean that we forego everything that Carrie and I just pulled out. It's better together story. We need to make sure it's secure, we're empowering the right behavior for our customers and within our organizations. Before we wrap up, I wanted to provide one last look at our example. Again, this may look a lot like your organization. Our approach working with this company included really understanding their current resources, their investments, their limitations. They had a need for disaster recovery, and they had a small but mighty IT team in-house. The drivers for this project were always top of mind as we designed the migration strategy, as we addressed the technology selection, as we looked at security, compliance, and how to facilitate business agility. Overall, this approach has really resulted in a successful migration for this client and has really moved them on the path to realizing some of these long-term outcomes around innovation or cost optimization that are really achievable through the cloud. And with that, that brings us to a close. We thank you all for your time today and for joining us. Please feel free to reach out to us. There's some contact information here for you, and we would love to get your questions in the chat. Thank you again for your time. Have a good one.
Thank you so much to Carrie and to Sarah for that awesome presentation and for sticking around to answer some questions on live chat. I know the audience really appreciates that. We do have a lot of questions. So I will remind you, if you don't get an answer back on live chat today, Carrie and Sarah will do their best to get back to as many as they can. But if you don't get a response, they will follow up with you over email. So stay tuned for that. I also want to remind you that the wish list is up on your screen again. So what additional information would you like to get about the TierPoint solution? There's lots of options. I saw some requests for case studies, use cases, and I think we got into that a little bit in the conversation today. But there's obviously lots more examples out there. So this is a great time to say, hey, I would like to get get a few more of those case studies. So anything you want, click on the poll, click on the wish list, and get that in your stocking. That's the stocking stuffer that I'm offering to all of you today. Adam, I see, says, pretty cool. The excitement continues. Adam, you are absolutely right. And the excitement is certainly continuing. We've got another awesome presenter in the wings. But before I move on to that, a few quick reminders. One, make sure that you're visiting that handouts tab. Make sure you get the TierPoint solution brief, manage public cloud, speed up adoption, and gain a competitive edge with TierPoint public cloud solutions. This is a great way to start identifying that right strategy for your business to hit that acceleration point, hit that transformation that you're looking for, meet those big organizational goals. This is a great takeaway, a great follow-up on everything that we just heard about from Carrie and from Sarah. So please do make sure you've got that solution brief, save that, hold on to it for later. While you're doing that, I'll give away a quick prize, and then we're going to get into our next session because I'm pretty pumped for this next one. We're having a great day here today, folks. So if you ran off to go get your coffee, make sure you come back quickly here. All right, our next winners of a $300 Amazon gift card, and then we'll do an iPad Pro. Reminder that you do need to be here live and present at the MegaCast. Our $300 Amazon gift card today going to June Park of Washington, D.C. June Park of Washington, D.C. Congratulations to you. And our next winner of an iPad Pro is Eric Toledo of Michigan, or Toledo, Eric Toledo or Toledo of Michigan. Congratulations to you, Eric. We will follow up with you after we wrap. Now, still lots more chances to win, so stay tuned for that. Also, that $50 Amazon gift card going to the best question asked, and reminder that we are looking at all the questions asked after we wrap. So stay tuned, keep those questions coming in. All right. Well, my friends, as I said, we have another awesome presentation waiting in the wings. So I think it's about time that we get on over to that. I am very excited to introduce you all to our next presenter. Definitely keeping the good times rolling because we get to chat with the Nisuni crew. I am very happy to introduce you all to our next awesome expert here. And that is, of course, Lance Shaw, Director of Product Marketing at Nisuni. Lance, thank you so much for being here with us today on this all cloud MegaCast. I know you've got a lot of great stuff in store for us. You got some poll questions for the audience. We've got Q&A to get to. Lots ahead. So I'm going to step back and hand the mic.
Yeah, there's lots. There's lots indeed. And hey, listen, thanks for that intro. I love it. I really appreciate it. And,
happy you're here with us, Lance.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks to everybody for attending today and joining us. We'll kind of keep things moving here for you. Listen, today's session, this is a great segue, by the way, from the TierPoint session. We were talking about, migration and security and cloud native. There's so many things to consider. And what I want to do today is get you think about how you manage your files, all your file data, which, by the way, is probably, for most organizations, is like 80% of your data, which is a lot, right? So it's, obviously it's way beyond, Google Docs and Word documents. It's CAD files and InDesign and who knows what else you're doing specific to your business. But there's lots to think about. And so I'm going to start out today with a lovely poll question. And it's pretty simple, but I want you to think about how many different file share systems you have in use today across your organization, right? You might think, I just keep everything in one place, right? But usually we see organizations that are that have a lot. They have several, and they usually, I'll say usually, right? Not always, but they usually introduce fragmentation. Sometimes you're doing it because you've got different regions you have to support. And, it's just easier to move data from point A to point B so people can get to it. And, it's great to duplicate effort, I suppose. Not really. But, I love there's a lot of people that are saying more than 20. Oh, yeah. So that introduces a lot of interesting scenarios, shall we say, right? From an IT perspective and just a productivity and efficiency perspective. So let's dive into how you can think about these differently and how you address the file data management when within a hybrid cloud scenario. So the challenges you face, the sort of, we'll call it the pre-cloud struggles, right? It's the before I went to hybrid cloud in a cloud model, yes. Guess what? Big shocking headline there. File data continues to grow, right? And the Earth is going around the sun. Okay, great. It's never going to stop. And by the way, your data centers, your on-premises data centers, those are complex, they're costly, and it's costly to grow. Those of you that are dealing with on-premises environments know that all too well. Like, EMC comes knocking at the door every 3 years and wants their check, right? So and that's super fun. But if you could eliminate some of that, it'd be great. And then, of course, a lot of us, many of us, maybe not all of us, but certainly many of us are, not me today, but many of us are working in a distributed fashion, right? Sometimes in the office, sometimes out of the office. And that you have to deal with that, and doesn't show too many signs of changing, right? So you've got to worry about that from a security perspective. And of course, our good friend ransomware just won't go away, and it just seems getting worse, to say nothing of all the other challenges we face in a security model that to your point, brought up some of those earlier. So if I can't provide three things, then I will say to you that moving to the cloud isn't worth it, right? If I cannot gain what we're calling effortless scalability, and effortless was chosen on purpose, right? The easy, simple, quick, flexible scalability to all your files and users' locations. If I can't provide that, I got nothing. If I don't have built-in security, this concept of cyber storage, where I can quickly recover my data much faster than I ever did with a classic legacy file data backup and recovery solution, then I probably wouldn't want to bother. And by the way, if I can't deliver all of this without performance for my end users, it's not worth it, because users are picky and they got used to certain things, and to slow things down or introduce latency that's unnecessary is going to be a problem, and you will hear about it. So let's not do that, right? So I've got to be able to provide those three things. And so, looking back through the not too distant past, a lot of organizations were presented with solutions that say, "Hey, look, we're moving everything to the cloud. Won't that be great? You'll be able to get rid of your data center and slim things down." And a lot of companies did this. NetApp did this. I mean, even our good friends at Microsoft did this when moving from Windows file servers to Azure files. It's really sort of transporting, literally doing a lift and shift onto cloud providers' server environment. Which, okay, great. I was able to not use my own servers, but I'm still stuck with the same limitations. I still have to deal with multiple file systems, fragmentation. I have to look at separate backup and DR solutions and the administration of those. I've got, in many cases, some of the same security challenges especially around exposure to ransomware and snapshot limitations that I may have in these systems that exist in these systems today, that would slow me down and increase, easy for me to say, increase my exposure to risk. And for many organizations, the idea of moving to the cloud and introducing potential latency and bandwidth issues is a no-go, right? It slows people down from wanting to do that. So, my only point here is that doing a retrofit solution or using a lift and shift solution isn't good enough, quite frankly, right? It might have been good enough when we first started going to the cloud a few years ago, or several years ago, I guess, but not so much anymore. So the ideal scenario is really one where, look, I can take advantage of unlimited scalability in the cloud. I can deliver local performance to my users, and I have the control and the security I need over my file data, so that I can quickly recover and quickly protect myself and mitigate any threat from ransomware, right, or any other attack, or just human error. Quite frankly, that's probably the most common. And so if I can deliver that, then that's why I would want to go to hybrid cloud storage. And this is where Nasuni comes in. I know you're surprised, but this is where we start to think about the value of hybrid cloud storage for providing a seamless changeover from your previous environment, right? The users come in on day one and everything's the same. Everything changed, but everything's the same. In terms of their map drives, their workflows, their existing processes, application access, it doesn't shift when you migrate into a hybrid cloud environment like Nasuni. So, and you've got the scalability, which I'll dive into a little bit more here today, about with the capability of having basically no limits. Forget about volume limits, forget about user limits, location limits, any of that, right? And we'll talk about that in a little more detail. When built-in security and a fast edge performance model that brings all of your data together in a single global namespace. So you have one place to go. We'll take a look at the architecture a little bit more here. So from a user perspective, you're going into one single environment. That's all users see. Behind the scenes, it's a single global file system leveraging object storage in the cloud, from whether it be Azure, AWS, Google, or even some private cloud providers. So you take advantage of the object storage benefits in terms of cost and in terms of immutability, because what we're doing here is effectively creating everything is written once and read many, so that every single write and file of a file or anything is kept in an immutable fashion. So that provides a super fast way to be able to recover an individual file, even recover an entire volume, because you have an infinite number of immutable snapshots available to you. And what that means from a file and backup perspective is that you don't need traditional file and backup solutions, right? Is that because your recovery, your security is built in. You've got ransomware defense technology available to you, and you've got a localized edge performance model that is orchestrated and intelligent. It's not just a virtual machine sitting in a box in the office or local to your users. It's way more than that. It's orchestrated and caching that allows you to always stay on top of the latest versions of files, and keeps those local, so that you don't have to worry. Really, I would never say never, but you don't have to worry about egress charges like you might think you would, because you're not pulling data down. You're leveraging the data cached in these local edges. So let's dive into the benefits of this a little bit more. So when we talk about effortless scale, what do we mean? Well, first of all, from an administrative perspective, you've got a single administrative console. You have one place to go. You are not, all of you that just said you had 5, 10, 15, 20 file shares and systems to manage. What if that was all in one location? Wouldn't that be easy, right? And of course, you can still you can segment based on data sovereignty concerns or access control. It's segmented from a usage and access perspective, but not from an administrative perspective. So within a single global file system, you can manage an unlimited number of file shares. You can support literally any file type. You can work with one or more cloud providers of your choice. You're not limited by users. You're not limited on the number of volumes or number of files, or the number of locations. It's really a very different way of thinking about file data management, and really freeing yourself from the infrastructure limitations that exist in earlier systems. From a security perspective, there's a lot to be gained here. Because of that immutability and because of the way snapshots are managed, you have the capability of, first of all, not having to worry about file backups, which is fantastic. And if you think about the cost ramifications of that probably would get your attention just by itself. But from a speed perspective and from a mean time to recovery perspective, you're not moving data when you're doing a restore. You're simply pointing back to the previous known good copy of those files. So which means you can restore files literally where it says million files a minute. That is not an exaggeration. Customers have had to do it. They do it. It works very well, and proven time and time again. Similarly, in a disaster recovery, when suddenly there's a power outage, some of our customers have faced that, or unfortunately a disaster, you can spin up a new environment and everyone can be moved to that new location in very short order. So you really, you don't have to worry about being down for days or hours as you try to recover your system. You can keep the business running, which is really all that matters here. The only other thing I'll point out, and this came up in the TierPoint conversation, right? There's the importance of being able to integrate into your SIEM environment. So integration with tools like Microsoft Sentinel give your security operations team that overarching visibility into what's going on within your file system. And effectively, Nasuni becomes like an early warning system, if you will, because of the edge devices, which leads me to this. So when we talk about those virtual machines that they can be physically located, or they can be in the cloud, but those caches and those edge devices are where your users are accessing their data from. If an attack occurs, it is mitigated and captured and caught at the edge, and that's where that early warning system comes into play, right? So if you've got a virtual machine with my Singapore environment, and suddenly an attack that happens in that environment, my security operations team back at headquarters knows about it, is alerted, can take secondary action. Meanwhile, because of the built-in security and protection within Nasuni in the file environment, you immediately are stopping that, are aware of it, and can mitigate and recover those files and go back to their last previous known state and begin your investigation into how it happened, kicking the person off the IP, off the network, isolating them, and immediately taking action to recover. So not only are you getting that local LAN-like performance with secure external access for your partners and for your end users, but you get that data protection that's offered at the edge. And then because of the caching and the global file locking and acceleration that we do, you're able to handle very large files. So many of our customers, probably many of you, dealing with, like I said, CAD files or InDesign files or graphics or videos. We're all making videos these days. How do I share those between environments and work on them, collaborate, develop them efficiently and effectively? So organizations rely on Nasuni to be able to share that data between locations, and effectively, in many cases, are running sort of around-the-clock workflow processes with different teams around the globe, because they can share very large files, whether they be, I mentioned CAD files, but sometimes in building and construction and architecture, they're much certainly larger than your average Word document or PowerPoint. So being able to share information quickly and easily and be guaranteed that you're looking at the latest version eliminates the need and what drives some of the silos that you mentioned earlier, right? I don't need shadow IT solutions. I don't need to be running a Dropbox and Box or whatever else it is out there that somebody set up with a credit card. You don't need that. You've got everything in a single location, and you can easily share it and securely share it and track access and traffic as needed. I'll throw this slide up for you here. I mean, we only have a limited time together today, so much to share. But I'll throw this slide up as just an example of a number different customers that are using Nasuni today, right? Some of these logos you're certain to recognize. The only thing I would call out here is you can see what NAS was replaced, and you can also, for each one, but you can also see what file backup system was replaced and which cloud they went to. And what's interesting about this is that really the fact that they are able to eliminate those different systems, right? And that not only am I consolidating my data center and getting rid of unnecessary file servers, I'm getting rid of redundant or repetitive file backup solutions. And I no longer need to worry about those, at least from a file data perspective. And as I said, that's 80% of your data. So it's a very, very attractive solution for many organizations, and I hope I'm able to convey the value of that to you. Speaking of value, that's all that matters, right? We recently sort of gathered together all the metrics and the quotes from customers that are realizing benefit from using Nasuni's hybrid cloud storage. And I'm not going to read all these to you because that would be silly, but I will point out that the benefits run the gamut from various cost reductions and savings around storage, of course, improving collaboration speed and the time to synchronize files and keep everybody in sync. That is a big headache for many organizations. And from a security perspective, we talked about very fast recovery point objectives, meeting those objectives, and your recovery time objectives as well, and being able to radically improve your disaster recovery times. I'd say 99% faster is pretty good, pretty good there. And then from a business perspective, there's some overarching themes, right? One of the things that we're increasingly seeing that as people want to shut down their data centers and move to the cloud, they want to do it at least partially to help fulfill the organization's commitments to reducing their carbon footprint. And certainly moving to the cloud and doing consolidating access and consolidating your environment and leveraging clean energy definitely helps that. So not a bad thing. Now, one of the things that comes up is like, that's great, Lance. This looks really cool. How do I get there? So the good news is that this is a very seamless process in terms of moving data, because you're really, when you think about a migration process, you're probably looking at, depending on your environment, everybody's different, but terabytes and terabytes of data, right? And that might initially seem intimidating, but the good news is that, especially when you're thinking about the environment that many of you have with multiple data silos, you can move that data in parallel transfers. You can all happen at once into into the cloud, into the Nasuni platform and environment. And of course, throughout this process, as was pointed out in the TierPoint presentation, I might add, none of this just happens. You don't just flip a switch. I mean, there's planning, and this is a great opportunity for many organizations to, clean house. It's sort of like when you move from one house to another, you probably don't just bring the whole filthy attic with you. You clean house, you have a garage sale, you take a moment to organize your environment, and it gives you certainly gives you a fresh approach. And then you're setting yourself up without any limits for growth. So you're not having to architecture your file data environment to meet the limitations of the physical infrastructure you have. You can organize it by the needs of the business, and you can move and allocate resources. Like suddenly you need more resources in the Chicago office, and you don't need as many in the Shanghai office. Great, you can move them very quickly. But all of this can happen and has happened for all the organizations you saw on the screen a minute ago, and many more, in a very seamless, quick way, obviously without data loss. I feel like you shouldn't have to say that, because if there was data loss, no one that's just a terrible thing, and no one would be happy. And there's no business interruption. That's really the key thing. Many of our customers have said, hey, I came in and everything was changed, and I didn't even know what happened. Right. And, my bosses asked, and they said, when are we switching over? And it's like, oh, that happened yesterday. We're all set. So it should be and is that kind of experience. And obviously we have an expert professional services organization to help with that, and all the latest tools, and to help you move very quickly and easily into a hybrid cloud storage environment. So certainly nothing to fear there. I'll leave you with really just sort of one kind of key point here. Julia, if any of you are Gartner research customers, you can reach out to Julia for more details on her research or schedule an inquiry. But she made this comment about, or actually not a comment, it's in her recent report about 2023 is the modern era where the data center is no longer the center of data, right? And I think we've sort of thought for years that was eventually going to happen. It's finally happening with the advent of hybrid cloud storage solutions like Nasuni, that can facilitate where your unstructured data lives, how you can manage it better, how it can be more secure, safer, accessible by all those who need it. And I think, really maybe the most important point is it sets you up for future success. The limits are gone. So if you're growing your company, or if your company acquires another company, for example, bringing those new people in is much simpler than it ever would have been in using a previous system where you had to copy and move data over, and it took years and years. It's a much faster process to bring new employees and whole new divisions on board into your environment. So I hope I've given you a few things to think about here. I know this is a bit of a whirlwind, but one of the things that I want to show here, and of course, I've created a QR code, so if you want to scan that and learn more, you can go right to nasuni.com. We have a host of different customer stories, testimonials, research papers, all the information that you require to make sure that as you move your architecture into a hybrid cloud environment, you are meeting those three pillars. You're meeting those three requirements: scalability, built-in security, the edge performance that your applications and users require, and without any limits to hold you back from growing in the future. So that's a lot. I want to ask you, I'm going to put up another poll here as we go into Q&A. And this is where I guess I switch back over to you, but right? that's my cue. But I guess now we can go to Q&A.
We can go to Q&A, but you nailed it, Lance. That's exactly what we want to have up right now, because we want to make sure, as you just said, it's kind of a whirlwind, right? There's a lot to cover here, and we are checking in with the audience to see what follow-up they'd want. So this is I keep calling it our holiday shopping list, Lance. This is what information does the audience want to follow up with from Nasuni? And there's some great options out there. So hopefully you guys are clicking away on that. And while you do that, Lance and I are going to dig into some of your questions. Lance, are you ready?
I believe I am. Let's find out.
Solid. Do a quick little gut check. Yeah. Okay, we're ready.
Yeah, I think I'm ready. Okay.
All right. Well, this one's actually come up a few times today. We have a few people that are really looking for those real world examples. And so I'll pick this question here. Do you have a
Okay.
specific example where you've averted a significant ransomware attack?
We definitely have had some customers that have come under attack and have been able to recover very quickly. Not any that I can name.
Yeah, fair.
I will, right? Yeah, they wouldn't appreciate that. But I will say that, and I hesitate to say this because it's like you're jinxing yourself, but none of our customers have ever had to pay a ransom or have been down for any significant period of time. They're able to quickly recover,
Wow.
just like I said, and it's our goal to make sure that always stays that way.
Well, I think that's a great answer and as specific as we can possibly be in this case.
Yeah.
It's hard to get into. I mean, this is the sharing information, but being aware of privacy, right? Let's see. Do you have any recommendations on automated tools for cloud services, or should I be creating these in-house?
Automated tools for cloud services. Not sure I totally understand the question, but
Yeah.
If it's automated migration tools, perhaps.
Maybe let's go with that. Let's start with that.
All right. Because then yes, I would say in general we use the right tool for the job, but I mentioned how many companies like that have multiple, like pretty much everybody does, multiple file shares that they want to bring them in all at once. We use a variety of tools, including ones from Guru Squad. We even our own proprietary tools that we've developed over the years. So there's probably not the need to develop your own. That's for sure. There's lots of existing tools that make it quick and easy and validate the moves and make sure that everything has arrived safely and securely.
All right. Well, we got a couple of questions about data sovereignty, because obviously this is top of mind, and that came up in our early poll when we were wondering about, what is sort of roadblocking people from moving into the cloud. And so, question here about the single global namespace providing for data sovereignty, and especially if you've got an organization that has across different regions.
Sure. Yeah, very common and great question. I would say that even though you have a global namespace, you can be using other or very specific regions from cloud providers, right? So this comes up a lot, for example, in Germany, right? I want to make sure that the data stays in Germany. The only people accessing it are Europeans, and they're only using VMs that are located there, so nothing leaves the area. And that's easy to do, and quite frankly, we're leveraging the flexibility that the cloud providers provide. The global namespaces, sort of think of it as like an umbrella. You're managing all that environment and even defining how those VMs integrate with that particular regional provider. But you don't have to worry about your global namespace. You're not exposing anything to the broader world by doing that. I hope that answers the question.
I think it definitely does. And Lance, I wish we could keep going with this Q&A because there's a lot of questions that we're leaving unanswered here. I am going to switch you over to live chat, and we are also going to make sure that all of these questions get followed up with via email. So one way or another, everyone out there, you will get answers back to your question, but we are going to start to wrap things up with Lance. Before you leave us though, Lance, if somebody out there does want to get started, wants to learn more, wants to jump in with Nasuni, what do you recommend as that first step?
Well, first step is certainly you're all doing your research and looking into what's out there. I would visit our website. There's a direct the next thing people want to see is a demo. So there's a direct ability right on the homepage to be able to request a demo. We'll reach out to you, and you can ask all the questions you want, see it live in action, and how it relates to your particular environment. And we're here to answer your questions and help you improve your environment.
Well, that's perfect. And I think certainly you've answered a lot of questions out there for the audience today. A great place to start. And there's so much more to learn. So I'll remind everyone to be sure that they're clicking on that wish list and be sure that they're clicking on the handout. You guys have a really cool white paper and takeaway for the audience today, Lance, on evaluating hybrid cloud storage solutions with Nasuni. And I think that is one of the things that comes up a lot, right, is how to choose the right solution for you. So this guide has some great answers. Lance, I want to thank you so much for being here with us today to walk us through some great insight and for taking some Q&A. This has been a lot of fun.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody, for being here today.
All right, so keep clicking on that poll. Keep those questions coming in. Lance is going to get back to as many questions as possible, and we are going to make sure that any questions that don't get answered are followed up with. So lots of answers coming your way is the short takeaway from that. All right, so you're clicking on the wish list. You're getting in those last questions. You're clicking on the handout and downloading that for later. Boy, you're doing a lot of things, so I better get around to a prize giveaway. Let's do a $300 Amazon gift card and an iPad Pro. So we are going to give this away to 2 lucky people who are here live and present at the MegaCast. And our very next winner of a $300 Amazon gift card is Jonathan Miller of Massachusetts. Jonathan Miller of Massachusetts. And our next winner of an iPad Pro is Christos Manoli of Illinois. Christos Manoli of Illinois. All right, congratulations to Jonathan Miller on your $300 Amazon gift card and Christos Manoli of Illinois on your iPad Pro. We're going to follow up with both of you after we wrap. More chances to win coming your way, so stay tuned for that. Plus that $50 Amazon gift card, which is going to be awarded at the end of each one of our sessions. So keep those questions coming in, and we will take a look at all of them after we wrap. Okay, well, the fun is not over yet, my friends. We are really just getting rolling on this awesome day here together because we have another incredible presenter in the wings ready to rock here. Up next, we are going to be chatting with the Red Hat team, and I am so excited to introduce you all to our next presenter, Nirav Doshi, managed OpenShift Black Belt at Red Hat. Cool title. All right, Nirav, thank you so much for being here with us at the MegaCast today. I know you have a lot of great info in store with us. I can't wait to hear more about what's up at Red Hat. So I'm going to step back and hand things on over to you. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. Welcome and thanks for joining. My name is Nirav Doshi, and I'm part of Red Hat Cloud Services Black Belt team. In this session, we will focus on best practices and considerations for your organization while migrating applications to manage cloud service environment. Some of the topics that I will cover in the session are around hybrid cloud. I'll talk about top things to consider while migrating applications to an hybrid cloud environment, some of the business and technical considerations while making this decision. And we'll then talk about OpenShift, the value it brings to an organization, and why organizations should consider managed cloud services. And finally, I'll share some of the Red Hat offerings in this space. In a typical customer landscape, many organizations have legacy workloads and traditional development practices. They have invested in platforms and technologies that limit business innovation and agility. This is because many legacy systems were developed before the rise of cloud computing and cloud-native development practices. However, many of these workloads are still business critical and represent significant long-term investments, which cannot be easily replaced or retired. This leaves organizations in a challenging situation. They need to balance the requirement to sustain old systems with the need to innovate and meet customer expectations. IT organizations understand the need to switch from a brownfield to a greenfield development approach, but are struggling. Many of them lack automation or governance, and they have complex architecture or they lack common standards across different parts of the organization. Now, before I go further, I want to first define cloud models. When we talk about cloud, it means how resources are consumed. We have several options. For example, public cloud. It is built, controlled, and maintained by a third-party cloud provider. With a public cloud, anyone that wants to purchase cloud services can access or use resources on demand. Next is private cloud. In some ways, it is a natural evolution from a corporate data center. You can build a private cloud in a data center that's owned or rented by your organization, typically on your premise. It provides much greater control for the company and its IT department. In fact, there are many public clouds that are now running cloud services on their clients or on-prem data centers. We are now in the age of interconnected clouds. Many companies are adopting multi-cloud strategy. Not only can you choose whether to use a private or a public cloud, you can also choose which public cloud to use for certain workloads or applications. This brings me to hybrid cloud. It allows IT to incorporate some degree of workload portability, orchestration, and management across two or more environments. It gives some degree of flexibility and control to IT organizations. We have surveyed and talked with many organizations and technology leaders and are thinking of hybrid cloud or have already plans to implement this strategy. Next, you need to take a step back and think of where your organization is today. What are some of the biggest obstacles or challenges you are encountering from your own digital transformation journey? From our experience, some of the top challenges are around maximizing already existing infrastructure, conventional resources so that they can keep adding value, combining established and emerging methods, tools, and resources, delivering cloud infrastructure and cloud services to build modern apps, and finally around automation and managing resources efficiently. When you think about all of this from a business perspective, it leads down to three things: cost, flexibility, and speed to market or time. Next, I will talk about what are some of the considerations for migrating applications to an hybrid cloud environment. When you think about migration to an hybrid environment, there are many business and economic factors to consider. First is resources. In today's economic climate, customers are facing decisions around business contraction and resource management. We often hear customers say, I don't have time to focus on new applications. There is always an economic pressure of delivering solutions faster. And there is also a fierce competition. Second is around culture and practice for cloud. When you think about business challenges, one needs to evaluate how cloud ready your organization is culturally. Many companies are realizing that choosing just the right provider or technology is not critical to success, but also culture. Besides having the right skill set and technical expertise to adopt cloud native solutions, and from experience, when companies try to adopt cloud, many a times it changes the dynamics of how IT and business operates. Third is around complex implementation and integration. The need to integrate and continuously manage complexity is important. Customers are looking for simplicity, and many a times you have several vendors who have their own tools, which might be straightforward to use, but integrating it with various other tools, applications, and platform can be challenging. And managing it over time can be a tough hill to climb. Another consideration is security. It is one of IT's top priority. These days, we hear in news and public blogs that there was a data breach for such and such company, or hear things like applications being hacked or data being leaked. So when considering a hybrid cloud environment, organizations must have a plan on how to address security between two or more environments. From a compliance standpoint, you might need to keep certain workloads in a private data center due to external regulations. So with hybrid cloud, it gives you some flexibility to move certain workloads to cloud. And finally, cloud migration and total cost of ownership. There are several things that need to be considered. In general, the goals while assessing a large migration or modernization effort, you need to think about the level of complexity and the cost for migration. You need to identify potential risks at a code, infrastructure, process, or knowledge level. Predict the return on investment to make this business case, and identify or mitigate risk to the business so that you can minimize disruption to the existing operations. From a technical point of view, one must architect for flexibility. The purpose of application modernization is to bring back agility to legacy applications. By migrating them to a modern platform or by breaking monoliths into smaller, easier to maintain components like microservices. Applying modern software development and deployment practices and integrating old with new. Containers have garnered a broad appeal through their ability to package an application and its dependencies into a single image that can be promoted from a development to test to production. Containers help provide consistency across environments. And with containers, teams are better equipped to develop and manage the delivery of applications faster. Second consideration from a technical perspective is managing containers at scale, and it requires orchestration. Red Hat OpenShift is an enterprise platform that is built on top of Kubernetes that can be deployed on-prem as well as in private, public, or hybrid clouds. Having such an enterprise platform can help in running applications anywhere. Next is implementing a DevOps culture. It is an approach intended to deliver increased business value and responsiveness through rapid, high-quality service delivery. DevOps helps implement cultural changes like promoting transparency in decision-making, encouraging experimentation by eliminating the fear of failure, or implementing a reward system that encourages trust and collaboration. CI/CD. It is around continuous integration, continuous delivery, and continuous deployment. It introduces ongoing automation and continuous monitoring throughout the application lifecycle, from integration, testing phases, to delivery and deployment. Taken together, this connected practice are often referred to as CI/CD pipeline, and it is mainly supported by development and operations team working together in an agile way. And finally, security. Security is often an afterthought, something that was typically done at the end of development lifecycle by security and IT operations team. Successfully implementing DevSecOps begins before the application pipeline. Organizations must integrate security to every phase of the software development lifecycle. Organizations should make sure that their applications and infrastructure are running on a software that has built-in security tools and features. Now let's talk about value of OpenShift and what companies should look at when thinking about managed cloud services. Organizations need to deliver innovative applications to fuel growth and success. From a developer's perspective, the main objective is to reduce the time needed to go to production. They would like to take advantage of the best of the breed services, regardless of where they are. From an operational standpoint, they want consistency. They would like to abstract operational complexity, increase security, and decrease cost. They want to ensure cross-environment capabilities, and they are looking at toolings that provide visibility into the entirety of company's IT footprint. When you think about just cloud, it's very complicated to operate. The three major cloud providers have more than 720 services, and it is difficult to understand and configure some of these services. And figuring it out on how it would work in your environment is a challenge. This is where Red Hat shines. Our platforms abstract the complexity of cloud for organizations that just want to build and deploy applications. Our services manage the complexity of cloud so that you can focus on development activities. So I want to briefly talk about OpenShift. It basically offers customers a unified platform to address a variety of their needs, spanning from enterprise-ready Kubernetes orchestrator to comprehensive cloud-native application development platform. Customers who use OpenShift realize the benefits quickly, from higher developer productivity to unplanned downtime and more efficient IT infrastructure teams. resulting in a higher return on investment. OpenShift has helped many global enterprises transform their organizations to become more flexible, agile, efficient, and responsive. With OpenShift Cloud Services, you are also able to use the cloud way it was meant to be used, on demand, with flexibility to scale and collaborate as and when you need. You can refocus your time and resources on core competencies and not managing infrastructure. Clusters are already integrated with tools and technologies. You need to start using it immediately. It integrates developer tooling so that the development team has the tools they need right out of the box. OpenShift Cloud Services offers cloud-native solutions across AWS, Azure, and IBM Cloud, as well as managed offering with Google Cloud. This removes vendor lock-in, and it gives you the ability to manage across multiple clouds, depending on the workload and specific needs. Finally, with Red Hat SRE experience of managing large fleet of clusters with managed services, you get enhanced operational efficiency and security with proactive management and support. So how is Red Hat different? Besides maintaining technology and uptime, we focus on innovation and accelerating business outcomes. From a cloud services standpoint, we offer a turnkey application platform. It is more than a Kubernetes distribution. OpenShift delivers a complete platform, an application development, deployment, and runtime platform with additional features such as build pipeline, monitoring, security, service mesh, etc. on top of Kubernetes. We have a jointly engineered, operated, and support team by Red Hat and leading cloud providers. With Microsoft and Azure, we are first-party services and can be accessed within the Azure console or the AWS portal. Consistent OpenShift experience across hybrid cloud. It allows developers to maintain their productivity levels without interruption. And finally, we have a fully managed offering where you can start provisioning your clusters in minutes, and it is backed by the expertise of our specialized 24/7 global SRE team and financially backed with an industry-leading 99.95% SLA. So what does Red Hat has to offer in terms of hybrid cloud services? Red Hat Cloud Services is a combination of managed OpenShift plus application and data services. We partner with all major hypervisor, and Red Hat managed services are offered natively across clouds, removing vendor lock-in and offering the ability to more easily manage across multiple clouds depending on the workload and your specific needs. This flexibility gives the user increased choice and ease of use and consistent OpenShift experience across clouds. Red Hat offers application and data services to further extend the value of your OpenShift experience. Red Hat OpenShift API management supports teams that want to take an API-first approach to building microservices-based application. Red Hat OpenShift Streams for Apache Kafka is focused on distributing data and events to better connect applications running on OpenShift. And our fastest growing workloads on OpenShift are related to data science, including artificial intelligence, machine learning, and analytics. And Red Hat OpenShift Data Science makes this easier by providing developer and data science teams with an environment and experience for building data science workflows. There are other services around registry, connectors, and database access that are available too. So in all, these managed services together provides full stack management and a unified experience. It allows to capture the full benefits of OpenShift and enables a flexible hybrid cloud environment where you can choose the cloud and infrastructure best for your workloads without vendor lock-in. Here is an IDC report where you can find case studies from different industries. and some of the quotes from developers about faster application deployment, reduction in operation cost with uptime increased up to 30%. And the main thing, as a developer, you need to worry about writing code and application logic to get applications deployed faster. You don't need to worry about infrastructure and things like where this application will run. To summarize, Red Hat has long commitment to open source, delivering enterprise-ready open source solutions, and we partner with various technology providers and have deep cloud computing expertise. We help organizations navigate digital transformation and have developed cost-effective solutions designed for large-scale deployment. With that, I would like to end today's session. Please feel free to drop in questions in the chat, and I'll be happy to address it. Thank you very much for attending the session.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much, Nirav. That was such a great presentation. Lots of really exciting information. And now is your turn to get those follow-ups. Get that follow-up information that you are looking for just by clicking on the wish list on your screen. Do you want a data sheet, a white paper, a case study? What is it that would be helpful for you in terms of your follow-up? I'm seeing a lot of great high fives coming in. I'm so glad you guys enjoyed it. Adam, Venkat, that's so cool. I'm passing that on, making sure Nirav sees that as well. We are going to get back to as many questions as we can over live chat. Again, anything we don't get to, we will respond in email. Another great way to make sure you've got the info you need besides the wish list you're seeing on the screen is to click on that handouts tab. Be sure that you get the ebook that we have available from Red Hat. Super cool ebook called Accelerate. It's going to walk you through how you can speed up your IT, accelerate your IT with managed cloud services, and really digging into that modernizing application development, but with the added caveat of not increasing cost or complexity. So that is something that I think a lot of us are thinking about, right? How to get that speed that we're looking for, how to get the efficacy that we're looking for, but not breaking the bank or making things so complicated that we can't function anymore. So this is a great ebook, great read. Be sure that you've got that downloaded. Loving all the high fives, loving all the positive energy from all of you out there. Charlotte, Grizz, George, I see you. That's awesome. Thank you for those. The positive vibes coming at us today are really strong. Now, in line with that, let's keep that positivity going. I will go ahead and give away a prize. Now, we are going to give away a $300 Amazon gift card as well as another iPad Pro. So this next $300 Amazon gift card to someone here live and present at the MegaCast is Derek Callista of Indiana. Derek Callista of Indiana. And our very next iPad Pro are going to Emily Spriggs of West Virginia. Emily Spriggs of West Virginia. Congratulations to Derek Callista and Emily Spriggs. You have each won a prize, and we will follow up with you after we wrap. Still lots more chances to win, so stay tuned for that. Lots of opportunities, and don't forget about that $50 Best Question gift card from each session. So keep those questions coming in. All right, well, if you ran off for a stretch break or a coffee break, come on back over because we have another exciting presentation in the wings for you all, and you are not going to want to miss a word of this, I promise you. I'm very excited to introduce our next dynamic duo from the Rockstar crew at Cohesity, and that is Teresa Miller, Director, Technical Advisory Group, and their special guest, Christopher Dove, Enterprise Architect, Department of Finance, State of California. This is going to be a great conversation. Teresa and Christopher, I know you have a lot of information in store for us, a really exciting conversation ahead. I can't wait to dive in, so I'm going to hand things right on over to you, Teresa. Take it away.
Welcome, everyone, to the MVP Guide to Protecting and Recovering Your SaaS Data. Adoption of SaaS applications continues to grow, and industry predictions indicate that 85% of corporate apps will be SaaS by 2025. With the increased adoption of SaaS and cloud services, it's important not to confuse availability with data recoverability. My name is Teresa Miller. I'm the Director of Technical Advocacy here at Cohesity. And today I am joined by one of our customers and a very special guest. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, yes. My name is Chris Dove. I'm the Enterprise Architect for Department of Finance, State of California.
I'm so glad you're here, and I'm excited for our audience today to learn a little bit more about your experiences with this topic.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, so Chris and I have a jam-packed agenda for you today. We're going to spend some time talking about some of the common misconceptions when it comes to SaaS and security risks as well as ownership of data. From there, we're going to talk a little bit about what SaaS applications will offer you when it comes to protecting your data. And then we'll wrap things up by talking a little bit about Cohesity Backup as a Service. We're going to talk about M365. I have a demo for you. And we're going to also talk a little bit about Salesforce. So let's dive in and talk about some of these misconceptions. So one of the things that's important to highlight is that security attacks can impact cloud too. In fact, according to a recent survey, 56% of organizations that have data in the cloud had an increased attack volume on that data. We're also seeing complexity of attacks increasing. Things such as data exfiltration attached to ransomware, for example, or more advanced social engineering around phishing attacks. Organizations are also seeing impact from the attack. In fact, in this case of this survey, 53% said this was the case. And then lastly, 67% of those surveyed were attacked by ransomware. Chris, can you talk a little bit about what your org is doing to be prepared?
Yes, Teresa. One of the things that my agency is doing is we're going over and reviewing our backup strategy. And one of the things that we've noticed is we're adding, or we're making sure that we address our security needs in our backup strategy, along with our backup strategy cloud readiness.
Yeah, so looking at these stats and listening to what you're sharing, it seems that what you're doing is necessary.
That's correct, yes.
Now, Chris and I are going to talk about some common challenges. These are things that have happened to us within enterprises we've worked in. And so, Chris, can you talk a little bit about point number one here?
Sure. So recently, my agency, we experienced a ransomware event. Part of that ransomware event, our users' data in their Microsoft 365 workloads, OneDrive, SharePoint, and Teams, the data was encrypted. After we realized that we were under attack by ransomware, we quickly activated our technology recovery plan. And part of our technology recovery plan, we recently just implemented Cohesity Data Protect. Once we activated the recovery process with Cohesity Data Protect, we were able to restore 2.5 terabytes of our users' data back to them in Microsoft 365 within 12 hours.
Sounds like your planning paid off. I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about these other two examples as well. So in my case, I had an executive at an organization I worked at previously reach out because they deleted an email. And the unfortunate thing is that there were some decisions made not to leverage third-party backup in that case, and we were not able to get this email back. And then the third scenario here revolves around a customer record within our customer database. And again, different organization. And I think the thing that I really want to call out here is human error is common. And, nobody's doing anything intentional, but it happens, and it can create some really challenging recovery incidents for your IT teams. So now let's go ahead and transition over to what SaaS applications offer you. In this section, we're going to talk a little bit about M365. And from the start, I just want to call out, you're going to see that each application has different capabilities. There's no standard across the industry for SaaS applications. So I want to call that out here. So let's talk about Exchange Online first. I want to call out that you are getting data retention capabilities. These are policy-based and they're not backup. The other thing that's really important is if you look at your agreements, you're not going to find a recovery SLA. So keep that in mind. Now, if you choose to use these policy-based items, Here are just some of the capabilities you get from the native toolset. For example, deleted accounts and mailboxes can only be retained for up to 30 days. And I know I've worked in enterprises and worked with customers that have requirements that really sometimes provide the need for you to keep that beyond 30 days. So something to consider, you lose that without a full backup. Deleted item recovery, default is 15 days, max is 30 in Exchange Online. And when I was configuring systems in my Exchange on-prem days, we could set this up to as far as we were willing to pay for storage. So oftentimes that was like 90 days. And this functioned as a really great tool to handle one-off scenarios, empower the user, let them go back and look in their second stage recycle bin to recover information. And then the other thing you get within this tooling is litigation hold and retention policy. These are truly should be used for legal and compliance reasons. They're not backup. And there's also a 10-step process to get the data out if you were using this. And I just want to call out that the process is slow. I've personally run this for even just an individual user pulling out their data. I've had it run for 4 hours and then fail because the data set was too large. I had to reduce the size of the data set, run it again. And in the end, I didn't even have everything I needed. And so I think that's a consideration. While you're retaining your data for potentially forever with these, getting the data out is not going to adhere to any level of SLA to get that back in a timely manner. Chris, you actually had another option or scenario that you found where these native tools were not enough. Could you talk about that?
Sure. So one of the things that we experienced on doing our onboarding process from on-prem to Microsoft 365, specifically migrating our users' mailboxes to Exchange Online, we ran into a couple of issues where a couple of mailboxes were corrupted, or we were losing data out of those mailboxes, items out of those mailboxes. Prior to that, we've already implemented Cohesive Data Protect in the cloud and on-prem. So with that, we were able to recover those items that we lost and restore them into our users' new mailbox on the O365 platform.
Yeah, I think that's really, really interesting that migration can cause data loss. So I'm glad you were able to recover back to whatever point in time you needed for those users.
Yes.
All right, so now let's talk a little bit about M365 OneDrive and SharePoint Online data retention. Again, data retention is policy, not backup, and no guaranteed recovery SLAs. In terms of policy-based retention, you get the ability to store files and folders that are deleted for back as far as 93 days. The user can go back and recover those as needed. And then the admin can go to the site collection recycle bin for an additional 30 days. You also, with OneDrive, get the ability to, again, if configured, go back to a point in time as far back as 30 days. This was put in place for situations like ransomware, but I think as we've all learned more about ransomware often seeds itself further back than 30 days. So there's a really strong chance that this won't be enough. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about version control, because version control can be pretty powerful, but it's up to your admin to decide how many versions you're going to be allowed to keep. And so think about like maybe that number's 10. If you have 10 versions, in theory, I think one might think you could probably go back 10 days or even older. But the reality is I've played around with this a little bit, working with a coworker of mine. And what we found is that if we were actively working in a document on the same day, we actually could very easily go through 10 versions even in a day. So it's not anything that's going to help you go back in time, but it is a great capability in general. In terms of this next one, we have Microsoft Teams. So Microsoft Teams also is data retention, and It's policy-based with no recovery SLA. It's a complicated tool. It's not just a single solution. It runs on many different Microsoft 365 and Azure services and has what should look familiar, the same capabilities of SharePoint and OneDrive. So Chris, you have leveraged the native options for OneDrive, SharePoint, and Teams. You went through a ransomware attack. How does your experience align with leveraging these native tools versus, say, using a third party like Cohesity?
Well, one of the things that we experience is that trying to recover with the native tools is very complex. There's multiple steps in there, and then it's still not 100%, like you mentioned. Ransomware can seed itself, multiple days back outside of your retention policy. But having Cohesity, we were able to go through the process of just finding the items that we need past the 30 days and then restore it with just a simple click or a checkbox, and our users have their data fairly quick.
That's a really great experience to share. I can't help but to think back when you talked about the number of users you have and the amount of data that you were able to recover in a very reasonable amount of time. So I think it was really good that you took the initiative to not only use what we just talked about here across the M365 native options, but use Cohesity.
Yes.
So when should enterprises consider a third party such as Cohesity? Chris, can you talk a little bit about point number 1 here?
Sure. So most SaaS applications do not allow or do not have recovery SLAs. And for my organization, that's key. That's critical for us, specifically with our mission critical data. So that's why we chose Cohesity just for those SLAs, being able to have those SLAs.
Yeah, and as I think back to just the couple workloads we looked at with M365 and Salesforce, that was common that recovery SLAs are not guaranteed. So taking that seriously has proven to be valuable for you, it sounds.
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to also talk about long-term retention. So when you consider some of the native options only having capabilities that allow you to store information 30 days or back to 30 days, it's not unusual for organizations to need to keep that longer. So long-term retention options are helpful. They can also be stored off-site, which is another benefit. So gives you the opportunity to take it to a different cloud on the back end or to a colo of sorts to meet that enterprise requirement. Also, if you're leveraging a tool like Cohesity, it gives you access to data for exit planning and even migrations, like Chris was talking about. Mergers and acquisitions, when I talk about exit planning, I think that is a common use case where if some form of a company purchase happens and you need to bring that data together, having your own copy of that to help with moving it into that new org is beneficial. Chris, do you want to talk a little bit about point 4 here?
Sure. So for our organization, the ability to be able to manage both SaaS data along with on-premise data from a single administration console is key for us. Actually, it helps and aids us in our backup recovery strategy in eliminating data silos. So Cohesity is great at that.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing all of that. All right, so let's go ahead and transition to the last section of our presentation today. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about Cohesity, and Chris is also going to share some thoughts here. So why do organizations like yours protect their SaaS solutions with Cohesity? For me, it's a few things. So it's all about simplifying your management of data. You have data as a customer in SaaS. You have it in hyperscalers in the cloud. You have it on-prem. You might even have it at the edge. So having a solution that can bring that all together is powerful. We also talked about the risk of cyber attacks, ransomware being one of the top ones. And unfortunately, backups are not necessarily immune from attack unless you have some form of immutability built into your snapshotting, and we can help with that. And then the last point that I would like to call out here is just you have the opportunity, if you go with our as a service, to eliminate CapEx, get out of purchasing hardware, and gain control over your infrastructure costs. So, Chris, obviously your organization chose Cohesity. How does what I just shared align with your experience and decision-making process to choose Cohesity?
Yes. For us, Teresa, I mean, it's for it's simple for us. With the rise of ransomware attacks, which we just experienced, along with having very limited staff resources and the complexity of supporting both on-prem and SaaS data in the cloud, Cohesity Data Protect was the obvious choice for us. It also Cohesity also allowed us to decrease our backup administration overhead. So, and it gave us an ability from a single pane of glass to support both on-prem and SaaS environments, and then also increase our data security footprint by having immutable backups. Where before, I mean, now we're able to run our backups, whereas before our backups were running us.
I think that's a powerful statement, and I'm going to ask the audience to reflect on that. All right, so let's go ahead and transition here into a demo. So what you're seeing in my console here today is the Data Protect dashboard. And in this dashboard, we have several things I'd like to cue into. So one, you can check on your data usage, your regions that you're protecting to, as well as your protection status. Now, how did we get this started? Well, we started with sources, and you can see I have more than M365 being protected here today. I get some insights into things as they're working, get some notifications on some things I might need to check into. So a lot of value right here. Now, in terms of registration, it really is about taking the time to decide which region you'd like to, and which cloud you'd actually like to use. You can see we have many different AWS regions. I also have an Azure region in my tenant that I could also select. Now, my source is registered, and you can see the region here. I actually have Azure and AWS, but let's go ahead and edit just so you can see the settings in greater detail. So no connectors or anything required, just register and does some registration on the Azure side and put in your credentials and you're on your way. So now let's transition to data protection. So from a data protection perspective, I just clicked into my registered source and it took me straight into mailboxes here. And I have some ability to select everything. We have auto protect capabilities as well. Now let's take a look at OneDrive. So you're going to see the same list of users, and I've made some choices to protect some, not protect others. But let me show you how easy it is to protect. So I choose the user, I click protect, you can see my region, and then I can put a policy on it. So we're going to use my policy to back up every 6 hours and retain 2 weeks, but you can create your own to whatever your organization needs. From here, we can see we have control over start time, SLAs, and there are some additional settings around, for example, quiet times or blackout periods, maybe when I don't want this running, and then I can click protect. So now that that's running, I want to show you how to protect sites and also think about how similar what I'm doing in each of these workloads is. So the learning curve is light and it makes it really easy to get started protecting. So again, I'm going with the individual item, choosing that site. I chose my existing policy, just reviewing the settings and clicking protect. A lot of similarity here. We're going to go ahead and grab this team, the finance team, choose protect. Again, I could create a policy, but I'm going to use the one I started out with. You're going to see a lot of similarity of settings and additional settings. Choose protect. Now we're looking at groups. I'm going to grab a group, click protect. And again, you could do this for your entire batch. If you leverage our auto protect capability, it actually will account for users that you've removed and added. So there's it can make it really, really easy to kind of get this running and then not have to worry about it until you have an incident. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and transition to recovery. In this particular case, we're going to choose Tony Stark. Notice that when I choose a protected mailbox, I get the choice to recover the entire mailbox, individual items. I could unprotect it Or if I didn't like the time frame of the last protection job, I could do a one-off protection as well by clicking Run Now. In my case today, we're going to go ahead and do a recover individual items. Again, lots of choice and granularity you have, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to stick with emails and folders. I put in the wildcard here, again, just so you'd have some robust information to review with me today, but I'm going to go ahead and choose 2 messages. And we're going to head over to the right here. And we also have the ability to choose the time. And if we had other locations that this was being stored, we'd have that choice as well. Each message can also have its own recovery point. I'm going to go ahead now and click Next. So in my situation for mailboxes, especially when it comes to individual items, the reason for doing the restore can vary. So we're going to look at what it takes to restore to a new location. Anytime I have something as little as 2 messages, if you restore that back to the mailbox, they can get lost in the shuffle pretty easily. So when you move toward new location, you have the ability to isolate that. You can review it with the user, or you can share it with a manager if that's the scenario, or even legal and compliance. Just take it off to a different mailbox and then share it if you're not using the other options that we talked about, the native ones for litigation holding compliance. So I filled in all of that information, and the task is now underway and the restore has begun. All right, so we have talked about so many wonderful things today. I just wanted to make sure that you had the opportunity to draw in on some key takeaways from this session as you're thinking about how you want to plan to protect your SaaS applications. So 1, plan your recovery strategy around the enterprise SLAs that you need. 2nd, make sure that you can recover back to the recovery point that you need, as opposed to solely leveraging the native options. Make sure on point 3, I'm going to call out the fact that you're going to be able to improve your productivity if you have a single solution that can help with protecting these workloads. 4th, let's make sure you have the opportunity to ensure compliance and legal requirements. We give you options from the Cohesity side to protect these workloads in some of the major hyperscalers. We also have the ability to have you take that offsite, or long-term retention might be interesting. So we have that flexibility to offer you if you need it. And then being able to reduce your risk for access to immediate data, for exit planning, migrations, or any unexpected scenario, I think are key here. And if we think back to Chris's experience with ransomware, I think we really all should be taking recovery a little bit more seriously, because the unexpected can happen anytime. So with that, I just wanted to thank all of you for joining us for our session today. And Chris, thank you so much for sharing your experiences with our audience. It was just a pleasure to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, my friends. Well, now we have a question back for all of you. And what we're wondering about is what additional information you would like to get about the Cohesity solution. So we just got some great information. What a cool conversation to sit in on. Can we all agree that the bow tie wins the style gold star of the day? Love a good bow tie. That was awesome. Well done, Christopher. So we're giving you best dressed for the day, Christopher. That's all for you. Well, look, if you've got some follow-up questions, you want a little bit more information, you want to know about Christopher's bow tie collection, hey, put it in that question box. Let us know what your questions are. Also, make sure you're clicking on that wish list. We are going to make sure that all the questions that you ask get answered either on live chat today or in follow-up from the Cohesity team. So keep those questions coming in. Keep clicking on that wish list. Make sure you get all the stocking stuffers you're looking for, whether it's a case study, pricing details, demo, whatever you have in mind. Jack needs to know hand-tied or clip-on. So we'll leave that for Christopher to answer for us, hand-tied or clip-on. Solid question. Ian says bow ties are cool. I agree. Super, super cool. I wish I was wearing a bow tie right now. I got to get more bow ties. All right. Well, we are going to give away a prize, but I do need to remind you all to make sure that you've headed on over to the handouts tab. Make sure that you've got the Cohesity handout. Download that, hold on to it. It's going to be a detailed backup as a service evaluation guide and checklist. Again, this is such a great takeaway that's actually going to help you action some of what you're hearing about today. Going through this guide, going through that checklist, making sure that you're learning about how you can boost that data agility, boost that operational efficiency, and of course, the all-important cyber resilience. So make sure you've got that handout, give it a read after we wrap. And now let's do a quick prize giveaway before we get into our next session. So we have a $300 Amazon gift card that we are going to give away to someone here live and present with us at the MegaCast. Don't forget Lucky live and present here at the MegaCast. And that person is Grishmitha Kalam of Missouri. You have won a $300 Amazon gift card. Congratulations, Grishmitha, on your $300 Amazon gift card. We will follow up with you after we wrap. All right, now more chances to win plus, that best question gift card coming at you from each session. So keep those questions coming in, my friends, because you are being extra awesome and you get gold stars. But also, or let's give away gold bow ties today. You're going to get gold bow ties from me. Metaphorically speaking, I'm not mailing you bow ties. I don't want to promise that to anyone. Metaphorical bow ties to anyone who asks the question. And you are also entering yourself for a chance to win that $50 Amazon gift card. So keep that up. All right, we are going to move things right along because holy wow, it has been such a day. It has been so exciting. There's been so much information. And here we are at the end of our cloud-filled MegaCast. But don't worry, we are not winding down. We are ramping up because today here with us to bring us on home, we have Sonia Wilcox, Senior Security Engineer at Tenable. I am so excited to get into this presentation. I want to hear all about what's going on at Tenable. Sonia, I want to thank you for being here as our grand finale. I will hand things on over to you.
Awesome. I didn't know I was the grand finale. Can you hear me okay?
We got you loud and clear.
Awesome. Okay. It's so nice to be here with everybody. I'm going to make sure my advance works. Perfect. So to get started, my name is Sonia Wilcox. I am a Senior Security Engineer at Tenable. Tenable acquired a company called Ermetic, and I came over with the acquisition, which is how I came to work at Tenable. And we will definitely talk about that acquisition here shortly. What we really want to talk about is what Gartner has named CNAPP, Cloud Native Application Protection Platform. Lots of acronyms today, and I'll make sure that I try to read through them the long way rather than use all of my letters. So the first thing we have is a poll. So which of the following 2024 cloud-related initiatives apply to you? We're always interested in hearing what customers have to say about what their endeavors are, what they're having trouble with, where their pain points are. So we hear a lot of we need more skills. This year we've heard a lot of tool consolidation. So happy to have you guys take this poll. I don't know how long I should give. Probably not very long. I only get 20 minutes, right?
I know, it's always hard to know how long to leave it up for. I go back and forth, but it looks like the answers are coming in.
Yeah, there we go. I love it. Okay, awesome. Yep, see, tool consolidation and more Kubernetes and containers. I knew that was going to be a big one. We see that a lot also. I'll give it just a couple more minutes and then I'm going to run ahead. We are going to give a very quick demo too. And I think that's the part that everybody always wants to see. They don't necessarily want to see all my slides that my marks
writing into security, moving to the cloud, and AI are also getting written in.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. So, security vendor tool consolidation, locking down cloud access. I love that entitlement management is on everybody's mind. That's awesome. And also, automating in the pipeline. Huge pushes. So you guys are not alone. All right. So, if you've been doing cloud a while, you already know this. If you're new to it, it can get a little overwhelming. there are a lot of attack vectors in cloud that kind of didn't exist in the on-prem world, right? So in on-prem, identity really had to do with humans who were actually touching keyboards, whereas in the cloud, identity is everywhere. Everything has an identity. We are seeing a huge kind of shortage of expertise. I talk to people all the time at events, and it's one of the number one things is I don't have enough people. The people are still trying to get skilled. And then, tooling overload is another thing. So in that CNAP world, which we're going to talk about more, there are definitely some silos of data in there. Folks feel like they have too many point tools. And then, sometimes we struggle to collaborate within different groups. So all of these things contribute to having a fairly low level of cloud security. So security in depth covers all of these pieces, right? It's a kind of a wordy slide, but kind of tells you in some of the different sections of cloud security, what folks should be focusing on, what's important, excessive privileges, runtime vulnerability scanning, right? Looking for vulnerabilities on virtual machines and in containers, secrets that are exposed and hidden in clear text, not hidden in clear text technically. And today's answers are point tools, like I said, so like kind of more tooling than folks kind of really want to have. The cartoon is really cute. It has like an eye chart with the different CNAP silos under it. And we take a very identity first approach. So the company that Tenable bought, Hermetic, where I was working, was first and foremost a cloud identity entitlement management company, and then kind of grew the product to be CNAP focused. So what we really want to understand is where are we over entitled on identities? Because once we use that vulnerability to exploit a machine, once we use that security posture management, that misconfiguration to further that exploit, it's really the identity that lets us go too far. Oops, I think I skipped too many. There we go. So the CNAP takes some of these data silos and unifies them together so that you're not just trying to pull together a bunch of point tools and get data to your SOC or your security folks, your architects. And this is where we explain some of those silos, right? So CSPM is security posture management. That's looking at compliance frameworks and understanding where we fit into some of those, maybe NIST, maybe ISO, maybe SOC 2. The KIM, like I just said, is governance of identities and entitlements, which basically means where am I overprivileged? Vulnerability management is that cloud workload protection, CWP. Cloud detection and response, CDR, is using logs effectively to identify or to do kind of incident response as well as identify suspicious behavior. KSPM is Kubernetes security posture management, so very similar to CSPM, but very much focused on the Kubernetes world, which is very, very different. And then trying to shift left, so scanning infrastructure as code, helping DevOps teams shift left in their endeavor to not push misconfigurations up, right? So this is a kind of a famous breach that we all know and love. It's just a chart that kind of tells us how a company pushed through or how an attacker pushed through on a financial services company. And like I just said, there was a vulnerability, right? And then that led to them finding the misconfiguration, the credentials that they were able to, or the server they were able to get access to, which they shouldn't have been able to, gain temporary credentials, right? And then those credentials had access privileges, which allowed them to move through the environment, access data, and exfiltrate that client data. And so you kind of see that at the heart of this is really that identity that allowed them to take that last step and get at resources that they shouldn't have. All right, so I'm gonna jump into demo and make sure that my screen is being shared. I don't really
I'll let you know when I can see you.
There we go. Okay,
Nailed
you should. Perfect. Awesome. All right. So I'm hoping somebody can keep time on me because I can't see the the timer anymore. But so our approach is definitely combining all of those data silos, so the security posture management, the identity entitlement management, the cloud workload protection, into one place, and using all that data to help you make better security decisions, help secure the environment faster, help prioritize all the findings. So many of those tools, especially when they're different, maybe they're different vendors or they're looking at different things, it's hard to coordinate that data together. And a lot of folks feel like it's up to them to prioritize some of these things. For us, the main thing that we use for that, the very top thing, is toxic combinations. What that really means is resources that have multiple high risk levels. And so that's where we feel like you should focus your attention in terms of what you're going to remediate first, right? So it could be, the first line is obviously the kind of my favorite, which is workloads that are public facing. So they are open to the internet. They have critical vulnerabilities and they have high privileges, but we have others, right? Guest users with access to sensitive data, third-party identities with access to sensitive data, public workloads with an unpatched OS. So in our cloud workload protection realm, even there, we're going to see those security posture management misconfigurations layered with an unpatched operating system. That poses a big risk for us. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that toxic combination. Obviously, we can monitor all three of the major cloud providers, so AWS, Azure, and GCP. And what we see here are some virtual machines that have this toxic combination. I'm just going to go into one of them. I'm going to pick on the very first one. And what we see in this machine, it's going straight to findings because that's where I was last. We like to remember where we were. What I see is information about my machine, right? Pretty standard stuff, pulled together. So in the console in AWS, you would have to look at these in a couple of different places. I'm also going to see the network configuration. So how does this public-facing machine become public-facing? What security groups are being used to give that access to port 22? In addition, I will see all of my workload information, software that's installed, including where I have vulnerabilities, as well as my list of vulnerabilities for this particular workload. This will also show up in the findings so that I can understand exactly how and where to patch some of these things. And then our big kind of identity focus, idea here is, how do I understand what this EC2 instance can do, what roles can it assume, what policies are attached to those roles, and what services does this give me access to? In addition, because I'm pulling in logging information, so from AWS CloudTrail logs, I understand where these permissions are not being used. And that's really, really important. We want to be able to pull back to least privilege as much as possible, but we want to do it in a way that is not going to break anything, right? That's really important. We don't just want to start taking people's privilege away or start taking resource privileges away. And so what we can see here is, what if I want to understand where this thing can escalate its privilege? Excuse me. I've been talking all day. So here's a privilege escalation map. So what I've done is narrow that down to exactly where this thing has the ability to escalate privileges and what those policies are. And on the right, we see all of those services that we can escalate to as well. I'm going to take this back. Now, okay, that's great, Sonia. You've showed me that I have an overprivileged identity. You've shown me that I have vulnerabilities. Like, what do I do about this, right? So in findings, we take a very different approach in terms of findings. And when we prioritize them, we're looking at several different factors. When we're looking at permissioning, we're looking at, in the case of AWS, you can tell I'm an AWS person. We're looking at SCPs, we're looking at permission boundaries. If you have control tower running, anything that could be affecting the rights and privileges of all of the resources and identities in your AWS accounts is taken into context. We always tell you why something is critical. So I think that's where a lot of solutions kind of miss a little bit. Is it's great if you want to prioritize it for me, but can you just tell me why? I don't want a black box of this is critical, but this is low, and tell me why, right? We also tell you all of the context around these services, these workloads, what services are affected, what permissions are affected, right? And these are the sort of the in-depth identity entitlement management that makes us the leader in that KIM space. So now what I want to do is understand what the remediation should be. So we can do a few things. And what I really like about this particular example is in the old policy. So this is the original policy on the left that was given. It's star everything. Attach role policy, secrets manager, S3 star, KMS star. We go all the way down to the bucket as well as the permission for that bucket so that we're not any longer giving S3 star, right? And again, kind of pulling this back into that CNAP world, we need to pull in least privilege on our identities in addition to looking at misconfigurations, in addition to resolving vulnerabilities and outdated operating systems, right? And so we give you this new role, this new policy for a new role. We can also automate a lot of this identity-based remediation. So if you want to fully automate an entire environment and say, hey, anytime I have identity issues, these should be automated right, they should be resolved right away. We can do that. You can do also manual remediation and what we call one-click remediation within the product. So lots of different ways to approach that puzzle. How am I doing on time?
Got about another 10 minutes.
Okay, great. A couple of other pieces. So for me, I feel like the CSPM and the vulnerability management are fairly table stakes, right? We have a great set of policies for managing and understanding where our misconfigurations are. But we also need to understand on the entitlement side, what this should look like. So here I'm going to go into our permissions query. So if you've ever tried to figure out, especially in AWS, but this could be also in Azure or GCP, permissions get sort of gnarly in there. I need to understand all the entities that can do an assume role or a pass role, right, in AWS. I need to understand everything that's got administrative rights in Azure. So this is a pretty powerful query where we can come in and look for identity types, specific identities, what they can do. So I'm going to look for IAM users, and then I'm going to look for pass role. Actually, let's do assume role. So if you know, did I just lose my mouse? Of course. Yep, sure did. If you know what permission you're looking for, you can get down to that granularity. But you can also do what we call a permission category. So if I want to understand where I can do recon, where I can do permission management, and linking this back to that kind of final slide where we talked about the breach that everyone is very familiar with at the financial institution the last couple of years, maybe I want to look at permissions management, infrastructure modifications, but really recon and privilege escalation and data access are the permission sets that I need to understand. And so here is where you can kind of get some of that sanity check in terms of how do I understand who can do what and how it's being given, right? So through these policies, often we are giving permissions through many policies for the same set of perms, which you kind of see here. And then you'll also see the resources that gives us access to, right? Hold on one second. I need to see if I can get my mouse back because right now I'm on my trackpad and it is not working out for me. So let me just one quick second. I should have known that my mouse would. Okay, is it back? It's back. Cool. Last piece of the puzzle, I'm going to go back to the dashboard and just kind of walk through some of the other pieces of this that are not identity entitlement focused. So we do our open findings, kind of classify these in different ways in terms of the categories, high and critical. You can change that here. What I'm looking for here is maybe I need all of my workload protection findings that are critical or high, or all of my compute findings. And these are going to be more of that misconfiguration type of thing. So let's look at a GCP one for fun. Cloud Run Service Hello is publicly accessible. So that's definitely a misconfiguration. It's against best practice to have that be publicly accessible. If I click in that finding, I can see those remediation steps, right? So that's a little bit more of that CSPM. There are over 200 policies, and a significant number of them, probably over maybe 120, are all CSPM based. We're going to skip over our identity stuff because I think we've seen enough for the moment, but we do have public resources. So where do I have storage buckets that are public, S3 buckets? Where do I have secrets that are exposed? The last couple of months, I've had many customers tell us that our scanning for secrets and finding secrets is definitely the best that they've seen. So we're just looking for them in everywhere we possibly can find them. Cloud function environment variables, network tags, resource group tags. Developers kind of put them all over the place, even though they're really supposed to put them in a secrets manager. And we also do anomaly detection. So because we're pulling in CloudTrail logs and activity logs in GCP and Azure, we will see where we have unusual data access or network access management. Maybe someone is changing things in network configs and they don't normally. And this is humans as well as other service identities. So always keep in mind that whenever I say identity, I mean the whole thing, not just, Mary behind the keyboard or Sonia behind the keyboard. And at the bottom, we do see our workload protection categories as well. So where do I have critical CVEs that have a known exploit? And if I click on that, it's going to take me to that CVE and show me all the workloads that have that vulnerability, right? This is really important. This is what I really want to know. Where is this happening? So sometimes we look at it from a workload perspective, show me all the servers that have a particular CVE. Maybe I want to flip that and I know there's a known CVE that I want to check on and see which workloads have that I need to remediate, right? Last piece of the puzzle, I'm hoping I have 3 more minutes to talk about our just-in-time access. So I'm giving you guys kind of the real highlights of the product. All the product is amazing, but just-in-time access is really about pulling back standing privileges. It's sort of the same in concept to PAM, Privilege Access Management, except it's basically, we don't provision the users. We use a single sign-on, drop the user in with the access they need, time-based. You can get approvals or not. You can auto-approve. You have auditing around all that so that we don't have DevOps folks or site reliability engineers or regular engineers who are walking around with those standing privileges, right? They can request them very, very quickly. They can use the tools that they already have, like Slack or Teams, to make those requests. They can be approved within the tools they already have, like Slack or Teams. And it's probably the most popular feature we have in addition to that identity entitlement management. All right, the real question is, how do I stop sharing? Oh, there we go. There's a big button that says stop sharing. Awesome. Okay. I don't know how much time I have left, but I'm going to go to the next slide. And what I showed is really what we want to do around the CNAP phenomenon, which is make sure that we give you as much information as we can to make better informed decisions with lots of context around where to start in your cloud security journey. I've talked to folks who have a really sophisticated environment. They're very advanced, they're very mature, and they still do need that prioritization because if their environment is really large, if it's multi-cloud, it's very difficult to get to wrap your arms around all of that sometimes. Customer success stories that are really fun. I love BarkBox. I have 3 dogs. They love BarkBox too. And that was a really fun customer for us. They use a lot of the automation to do their remediations. Tyler Technologies does just-in-time access that I was just describing. And then IntelliCare, they were trying to kind of augment staff with product. They were trying to get their staff ramped up a little bit and trying to get some compliance benchmarks kind of hitting the top, and they were able to do that with the product. I think the last slide is a couple of, So there's there are a couple on-demand master classes that you can take, Cloud Security Basics and Cloud Breach Patterns, which basically kind of goes through the scenario that we showed before, which is like, how did they get in? How did they move around? What allowed them to do the things they did? What allowed them to take the identity, right? And I think that's it.
Awesome. All right. I have to tell you, I was laughing so hard out loud when you were talking about the big stop sharing button.
Yes. It's big, it's blue, it's right in front of your face.
I wonder if that does it. Oh my God. Well, Sonia, not only was that fun, that was really informative. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. You got a lot of high fives from the audience. We had some feedback on the demo, loving the elegant and informative dashboard. Barb said they love the ability to narrow down and get that more detailed view. So I think that really resonated with folks out there in the audience, Sonia, and I want to thank you for that demo.
Awesome.
Now we have a wish list up for everyone out there in the audience. And what we want to know from all of you is, what is the additional information that you would like about the Tenable solution? So Sonia gave us an awesome walkthrough, a lot of fun, lots of great information. And there's obviously so much more to dig into. We're just scratching the surface with our 20 some minutes here, So this is the way that you can make sure that you're getting the follow-ups that you need, getting the information that you want. So you guys click on that poll. While you're doing that, Sonia and I are going to take some of your questions. Sonia, are you ready?
Absolutely.
The mouse is working, the screen share is off. We did all the things. Now let's do some questions. All right. So we had a couple of questions coming in around this sort of idea of narrowing down in a busy field. And, there's lots of options out there. There's lots of native options and legacy options. And, people are trying to evaluate the right solution for them. So wondering if you could give us an idea of what you think makes Tenable really stand out and makes that the solution unique.
I think the number one thing is that we built the product before Tenable acquired us. We were Ermetic. We built the product from the ground up, completely in-house. So the interface never feels clunky. We take great pride and work very, very hard. Our UI staff is just amazing in making sure that it's really easy to use. All the products on the market are great, right? I've never talked about other competing products in a negative way. But some of them can be difficult to use, customers find, and not in all the places of the product, if that makes any sense. So I think that's a big one for sure.
Yeah. I think that's a great one. And I appreciate that, because I think it is important. It doesn't have to be that any other product is better or worse. It's just believing in what you do and what you offer. And clearly there's a lot to be said, and certainly a lot to be said for. And as I mentioned at the start here, there were quite a few people who really did appreciate the view and the user experience of your dashboard. And I think that does make a big difference, especially when you're stressed and things are not going the way you want. You need to be able to find the information that you need. I'm going to try to sneak in one more question here as we sort of run out of time. And I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit to folks out there that have, because I see a few questions in here about different environments, folks with AWS, GCP, Azure, folks that are on-prem, folks that are hybrid, and just making sure that there's no issues here, especially and also thinking about maybe virtualized infrastructure. Is there any limitation that anyone in the audience should be aware of?
So currently the Tenable Cloud Security product is cloud only, and that's across Kubernetes. And it's only the 3 main cloud platforms right now. There are plans to do some on-prem kind of Kubernetes and containers. And then obviously the Tenable product scans on-prem for vulnerabilities. So we think that, in this next 2024 should be huge in terms of really coming together with the Tenable product, which is obviously, market leader in that particular space, and really amping up the product that we already have. So it's currently cloud only, GCP, AWS, and Azure only, but stay tuned for some more interesting things, I think, in 2024.
Perfect. Okay. Well, there are a lot of questions here and certainly some follow-up questions. Normally I'd say, Sonia, can you stick around on live chat, since as I've said, you're our grand finale. We're going to be wrapping up pretty quick. So I don't know how much we'll be able to get responses back on live chat, but I do want to let everyone know that we're going to make sure all these questions get sent over to the Tenable team. So there will be some answers and follow-ups coming your way, and lots of great questions in the inbox for you, Sonia. So you'll have some fun homework to do after we wrap. And before you leave us, though, if you wanted to give everyone sort of a next step and how to get started, what would you recommend?
Go to the Tunnel website. I think we have a handout for everyone, if I remember correctly. But
Yes.
Definitely go to the Tenable website. I was talking to a customer where we actually didn't fit all of the things they needed, right? But we had the identity entitlement managed piece. And he sort of said, I did a little bit of research and I poked around on the website, and, I think I'm going to wait for the features that you guys are releasing because this other piece is so great. So there's a ton of information on the website about the formerly Hermetic, now Tenable Cloud Security product. And certainly if you register there, someone will reach out and start to help you along in that journey. We can certainly do POVs if you need to test it out in a sandbox. We've got lots of different ways to take a look at the product. So
that actually answers a question, Sonia, that came in just as we were chatting here about whether or not you're customizing solutions for each one of your clients. So it does sound like that you're building a fairly customized, or you're open to working with clients to see if you can find that customized solution for them.
Sometimes. I mean, we definitely have customers who come in with some requests are very easy to fulfill and make changes. We move very fast. We release every week. So, we can move pretty quickly on some things. Not everything, can be done in a couple of months or a couple of weeks, but we definitely love customer feedback. We love for people to tell us, what they need that we don't have. That's really helpful information for us.
I really appreciate that answer, Sonia, and I also appreciate you not just saying, "Yeah, we can do that." And I'm sure everyone on your team appreciates you not just saying, "Yeah." But I think it is really important to be honest about, hey, there are things we can do quickly, and there are things that take a little bit more time, and we're in it. We'll talk about it until we get there, and I love that. I love that response. So, thank you, Sonia, very much for coming and giving us a really incredible presentation. A wonderful way to wrap up our MegaCast. It has been so much fun chatting with you today.
Happy to be here. Thank you so much.
And everyone out there who is clicking on the poll and asking those last questions, keep that up. Keep the engagement going until the last second, folks. We're going to get every little piece of awesome out of this MegaCast here together today. So make sure you're clicking on the Tenable wish list there. Make sure that you're getting that handout. As Sonia mentioned, we do have a handout from Tenable on holistic security for AWS, Azure, and GCP. This is a comprehensive cloud-native application protection for multi-cloud environments. A super cool read. A great follow-up to the conversation that we just had with Sonia. Please do go check that out. We want to make sure that you get that information because, again, a little bit hard to remember everything, right? I keep seeing these wonderful high fives from all of you coming in saying how much you appreciate the sessions today, how much you've learned from these sessions today. And I totally agree. And I wish I could tell you I'm going to remember every single piece of it. And I'm not. I just won't. My brain doesn't work that way. So I need these little memory jogs after we wrap. That's why the handouts are so great. That's why these wish lists are so great, because it sends you what you need when you need it. Yes, Russell says we all spend so much time together. Yeah, we really do. I feel like it's funny. I talk about with our team about this all the time, that I feel like I know all of you, and yet I just see your names and your high fives and your hellos, and but you know what, it's really fun to spend this time together with all of you. So I want to thank you all for coming. I'm going to get into some more thank yous in a second, but I know you're all counting along at home. It's been about 30 minutes, which means it is time for our last prize giveaway. So let's do our last prize here. We have giving away a $300 Amazon gift card as well as an iPad Pro. We're going to give them away to 2 lucky people who are here live and present, and then I will read the entire winners list, so stay tuned. All right, a $300 Amazon gift card going to Eduardo Gonzalez of Massachusetts, and an iPad Pro going to Samantha Wayrich of Wisconsin. And as my gift to you, Samantha, I won't do my Wisconsin accent. That's my gift to everybody. All right, so I'm going to read the entire winners list again, and that is Daniel Durham of Indiana, Marcel Smith of Kentucky, Ann Brink of Wisconsin, June Park of Washington, Eric Toledo of Michigan. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not telling you what you won. Hang on. I got to restart. It's the end of the session. Okay, a gift card going to Daniel Durham of Indiana, an iPad going to Marcel Smith of Kentucky, a gift card going to Ann Brink of Wisconsin, and a gift card going to June Park of Washington, D.C., an iPad going to Eric Toledo of Michigan, a gift card card going to Jonathan Miller of Massachusetts, an iPad going to Christos Manolis of Illinois, a gift card going to Derek Callista of Indiana, an iPad Pro going to Emily Spriggs of West Virginia, and a gift card going to Grishmitha Callum of Missouri, a gift card going to Eduardo Gonzalez, and then an iPad going to Samantha Wayrich of Wisconsin. All right, that is the full winners list. That is a whole lot of awesome prizes and a whole lot of awesome humans all walking away, and more chances to win in future webinars, MegaCast, EgoCast. So you guys just got to keep coming back. We got time before the holidays, my friends. So keep hanging out with us. Don't forget that there is that $50 Amazon gift card coming at you. Best question asked for each one of our sessions. We're going to be looking at everything asked, and we will follow up with you. Hey, Leon, I actually was originally from, Leon says, oh, those Canadians trying to make fun of the Wisconsinites. I'm from Wisconsin, so that, I feel that them's my people, Leon. I'm straddling the borders here. All right, we'll do a full webinar of accents coming up soon. Stay tuned for that. No one wants that, but we'll see what we can do, Leon. All right, so I am going to remind all of you that if you are out here at the MegaCast today and you're thinking, boy, this has been a lot of fun, and I want to have more conversations with Jess, with Keith, with Scott, with the team at Actual Tech Media, we would love that. So come join us on a future summit, an EcoCast, a MegaCast, a webinar, whatever you've got in mind. Shoot us an email at connect@actualtechmedia.com. If you think you have a story to tell, I want to help you tell that story. So shoot us an email. We'll get that started. All right. Well, with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to once again thank all of our incredible speakers here with us today, from Gigamon, Rubrik, TierPoint, Nasuni, Red Hat, Cohesity, and Tenable, for making this MegaCast possible. It has been one heck of a day, hey? Honestly, I feel like we've gotten so much information. We've had such cool conversations. There's been demos. I mean, it's been everything. Poll questions. It was great. And, one of my favorite things about it, when we started the day today, all of you said that there was a lot that you were excited about with cloud, right? There was a lot that you listed when we did that fun write-in poll, and we got pages and pages of responses back from you guys, which was amazing. And you were all saying that you were excited about AI, you were excited about the opportunity for automation, reducing complexity, increasing that agility. And those are all really, really cool points that we, I think, got to explore a little bit today. I hope that you're feeling like we dug into that and how you might be able to enable that in your cloud infrastructure heading into 2024. And there's so much more to get into with all of these conversations. So I hope this is just a starting point for you. I hope that you follow up with all the organizations that were here today and get to know them a little bit better, get to know their solutions a little better and how they might work for you, and then keep coming back for these types of sessions. And I realize that's self-serving because, of course, I want to talk to all of you more, but also because it's just the start, right? We're just digging into all of these cool things that we can really start to build up and build out. So you want to keep that conversation rolling. You want to keep participating in these sorts of, communal learning opportunities where we can bounce ideas around and see where that takes us. And it's going to be someplace cool and exciting. I can't wait to be a part of it in my own tiny little way here with all of you every day. As Russell says, we get to spend a lot of time together, and I do love that. All right. Well, I hope that you all got some interesting ideas and tips, but most of all, I hope you had a good time today. And if you did, and you're looking to come back and keep the good times rolling, join us for an expert series on Friday, December 1st at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. We're going to talk about rethinking cloud, steps for refocusing on business outcomes rather than IT requirements. So this is a really cool, interesting exploration while we look at taking, our eyes off that final business outcome. Or off the requirements to get there, and actually looking ahead at those goals. This is the time, right, where we're setting those goals. We're looking ahead to those final destinations, where we want to be in the end of 2023, where we want to be at the end of 2024, where we want to be at the end of 2025. So if you feel like you're just sort of in the race, and you're constantly running this race, and you're not able to take your head up and look ahead at those goals, this is going to be a great conversation for you to refocus on those business outcomes. So come back and join us tomorrow, Friday, December 1st at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific for an awesome expert series. And until I get to see you again soon, I hope you have an absolutely beautiful end to your day.